day, everyone. Welcome to the program. This is Kenya, right here on KBC Channel 1. It's 21st day of November. We are closely coming to the end of November and December. Hello, we can see you from a distance. Hapo tu. Chicken assassination, goat assassination starting to happen very soon. Welcome. It's been you can check.
What's wrong with you, Mom? Why didn't you tell me that you were dealing with something like this? I would have been there for you.
I didn't want to worry you.
After I convince them to go abroad, do you think you can still stay in Beijing?
I don't have time for this. You know what? I don't have any time for whatever game you're playing. If you don't come out, then I'm going back.
Hey! Would you come with me if I went abroad? You want to persuade me to let my son stay?
No wonder he's so smart, because you're smart.
Flattering me isn't gonna help.
Did you buy it?
I bought it so that I could drive you around, especially during winter. That way I can also make sure to keep you warm.
These are the moments we live for every Friday as we catch up with the world of football.
Manchester City go in front.
With your favorite stars in rivalries like no other that keeps you on the edge of your seat. Learn a few tricks that keep you ahead of the game and spice it all with unforgettable moments on Dunda Dunda. On Saturday, you're in for another treat as we rock your weekend with all sporting disciplines, bringing you insights on what's happening behind the scenes as we share players and athlete stories, preparations, and celebrate their achievements.
Charging to the line! Is it going to be a world record? Yes, it is! She smashed it!
Whatever angle you look at, we've got you covered. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner. KBC brings you children's programs at its very best. From preschoolers to the teens, featuring the very best of untapped talents, showcasing arts and crafts, music and poetry. We bring you the latest animations and teach the children how to do it.
Can you read the word with Happy Hippo?
Join us every Saturday from 7 a.m. and weekdays in the late afternoons as we bring you entertaining children programming on KBC Channel 1. KBC Channel 1 magazine programs strive to disseminate news and information.
Welcome to Happening in the World of Entertainment
and achievements of individuals navigating through life.
Be part of the intelligent conversation up at KBC Channel 1.
Related to the interest of Kenyan public on various subjects of national importance.
Keeping you up to date with the latest tech news,
Challenges and remarkable stories of individuals with disabilities.
and you have a say.
Our magazine programs empower communities with words for conversations and a common language to approach the world.
For your infotainment needs, we have a great range of programs.
right, welcome back, and apology for that technical hitch. It's a cold morning, it's raining, so probably it's raining here in studio, but not literally. Karibu sana to the program. It's 21st day of November. My name is Victor Olo. A lot in store for you, so stick around for that. My name is Olo Victor for the second time. That one was Victor Olo, now this is Olo Victor. Vivian.
A very good morning to each and every one of you who is tuned in on the show. Thank you for choosing Good Morning Kenya. We have a lot in store, including an interview with Honorable Ruku and Professor Odor, where we will be talking about the heavy rains and food security in this heavy rains. Right now, Regina Manyara is back from Mombasa. Regina, good morning.
Oh my. Well, it's good to see you guys, but trust me, I would want to go back to Mombasa. But the flooding situation in Mombasa is way, more difficult to navigate when it's raining in Mombasa than it is to navigate in Nairobi. So I'm glad to be back to the Central Business District of Nairobi. That is a capital city. But then you and I have up until the 8th of December to submit our views in regard to the proposed changes in levies, including levies that have been proposed to be increased on marriage certificates. We'll be giving you details as we proceed in the course of this particular broadcast, where we keep you abreast on what is happening locally, regionally, and internationally. To the men now, to the gentlemen.
Good morning, Ray. How are you doing? Welcome to Good Morning Kenya. My name is Mike Migwi, and today for People and Politics, we'll be looking at what's happening in the political arena as well as what the dailies are saying. But for now, stick around for the news as it's brought to you by Regina Manyara.
And we start off on matters politics, where Azimio leader Raila Odinga wants a Treasury Cabinet Secretary Professor Njuguna Ndung'u and his energy counterpart Davis Chirchir to take responsibility over the alleged importation of diesel worth 17 billion shillings linked to businesswoman Anne Njeri. Raila claims that the mystery surrounding the alleged importation is a testament that there were fictitious deals in there that is amount to criminal offenses.
Transaction was the best. Every country today is looking for the transaction similar to the one that we have.
President William Ruto and oil marketing companies have defended the government-to-government oil deal as being above board and that it cushioned Kenyans from the vagaries of increased global fuel prices. But the opposition chief Raila Odinga is reading from a different script, calling on government to come clean on the deal.
You have reached a situation where oil marketing companies, all with shady histories, feel confident and compelled to answer Kenyans when Kenyans seek answers from their government.
Raila pointing a finger at Treasury CS Njuguna Ndung'u and his energy counterpart Davis Chirchir over what he claims to be a fictitious deal in the oil subsector.
The CS for Energy and Petroleum, Mr. Chirchir, and National Treasury, CS Njuguna Ndung'u, have certainly committed criminal offenses, abused office, and gone against the Constitution.
The opposition chief maintains the Kenya-Saudi oil deal was tailored to benefit senior government officials at the expense of consumers.
So we are asking these firms to table the evidence of meeting the corporate tax obligations. Don't tell us, show us.
In the meantime, Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah is expected to table the state capture bill that will eventually lay the ground for the formation of a state capture commission of inquiry. While responding to remarks by former President Uhuru Kenyatta, appearing to poke holes into the performance record of President William Ruto, the majority leader accused Kenyatta of overseeing plunder and government transactions that he claims were the hallmark of state capture.
We need and we must, as a country, have a commission to deal with state capture, be it a judicial commission of inquiry or whatever commission we can have in place to deal with the question of state capture over our economy.
In Kiambu, NAK Kenya Party leader Martha Karua wants the government to immediately review its taxation policies, claiming they were hurting small-scale businesses.
Political, economic, and social interests of the people of Mount Kenya. We will not accept politics of intimidation.
When you are talking about high cost of living, high taxes, high interest rates, we are most affected.
In Meru, a section of leaders have dared area Governor Kawira Mwangaza to make good her threats to dissolve the county.
Hata turundi kesho, utaenda nyumbani. Hata turundi next year, ama next year mbatiwan, Madam Governor, utaenda nyumbani.
Lakini akumbuke ya kwamba na mtu wote wa Meru akumbuke ya kwamba hakuna IEBC commissioners kwa sasa. Hakuna.
We'll be keeping a tab on what is happening in the political scene, especially in Meru County there. That move by Kawira Mwangaza to dissolve the county assembly. We have seen other governors in the past apply that move to try and bring sanity when it comes to matters of legislation within the counties. Now we'll see what direction that takes. Now to matters security, where police have launched a manhunt for 2 assailants following the killing of a policeman detailed to provide security during the KCSE examinations in Siaya. Now the officer, who is in the company of his colleague, were reportedly attacked by unknown assailants as they were transporting geography paper to Mahero Secondary School in Uranga Division, Siaya County. His colleague is currently nursing knife wounds at the hospital, and the assailants are reported to have stolen the officer's AK-47 rifle and 30 rounds of ammunition. Separately, a chopper ferrying the national examinations in Wajir crashed. Frederick Parsayo with the details.
Police officers are pursuing criminals believed to have attacked and killed a police officer and seriously injured his colleague a few meters to Mahero Secondary School gate.
Tumepoteza ofisa wetu, mwingine amejeruhiwa, na sio kawaida. Ni tukio ambalo limetushangaza sana, lakini tunaamini ya kwamba kama serikali tuko na uwezo ya kukabiliana na hali hiyo na kupatana na hawa.
Hatutalala kama polisi, kama haya mapunduki bado yako katika mikono ambaye they are not authorized. So hatutalala.
It is reported that tragedy struck after the 2 policemen and an examination official had been dropped off by a bus when 2 men dressed in heavy jackets and armed with knives and machete attacked them from behind. One of the assailants is said to have concealed his face with an Arafat shawl, and the second assailant was wearing a mask.
Naona pia wanateremka mbio. Sasa sikujua kitu imeendelea. Nikasema acha nimalize samba yangu kwanza ndio nifanye nini ndio niende. Sasa kufika kwa barabara nilisituka sana, tu wameua ofisa, nimeshangaa sana.
Wamekutana na watu wengine wawili. Hao wawili wakaua polisi moja na mwingine wakajiripotiwa, lakini wamepeleka OC.
2 knives and a black dust coat were recovered from the crime scene. However, the geography examination continued as the center manager escaped unharmed.
Mtihani wanafunzi wetu hapa Mahero itaendelea. Ndio kitu ya kwanza tumeongea na wao na tumewapatia assurance security itawekwa mpaka wamalize mtihani yao.
The injured officer who was stabbed in the head and chest was rushed to Siaya County Referral Hospital for treatment, while the body of his colleague was taken to the facility's mortuary. The national examination is set to end this Friday, with candidates having to sit for the physics practical paper examination. Parsai Frederick, Prime Edition.
That had been prepared for you yesterday night. We're going to be working on developments going forward in regard to that issue. We continue wishing all those who are sitting the examinations all the best of luck. Now, more than half of the counties at 27 are affected by the ongoing rains and need humanitarian assistance. And this emerges the government on Monday announced disaster response and security teams that have been activated to identify locations likely to be marooned by floods as it scales up measures to address flooding.
This comes as a section of leaders from Wajir County say that the situation is dire, calling on the government to declare the ongoing rains a national disaster. Here's Timothy Kipnusu with the details.
Scenes of floods wreaking havoc in various parts of the country. Cutting off villages have been witnessed in recent weeks following the advent of the El Nino rains. It is this devastation that leaders from Wajir County want the government to address urgently.
Imagine as we speak, the main road that links Wajir to Nairobi, which is another trunk road, an S road, is inaccessible. So you can imagine, how do normal supplies, basic supplies move to Wajir town?
Led by Wajir North lawmaker Ibrahim Abdi, the leaders say at least 200 families in the county have been affected amid concerns of a possible disease outbreak.
The food that was being airlifted is very, very small. We want the quantity to be increased, to be dropped by air. So we need more planes, the Hercules we used to see when they were biting droughts that used to drop food. So we need more food. So we are asking ourselves, there has been contingency plan for El Nino, billions. Some sectors, I know one sector given 700 million, one agency, and many others. Where are these billions?
And as the Wajir leader calls for urgent humanitarian assistance, the Minister of Interior in a statement says they have scaled up aerial and ground surveillance and are working with teams from the Kenya Coast Guard, National Police Service, Kenya Defence Forces, and Kenya Wildlife Service to rescue people in flood-prone areas, as well as aid in distribution of food and non-food items, calling on communities to relocate to higher ground. Additionally, they plan to set up temporary shelters in schools and social halls. The statement also reveals 27 of the 47 counties are most affected by the rains in the Lake Victoria Basin, highlands west of Rift Valley, Central and South Rift, northwestern counties, Central Kenya, southeastern lowlands, northeastern and coast region.
A majority of the headlines in our papers this morning are underwater. That's the main headline across the majority of our dailies that we're going to be sampling in not too long during the newspaper review. Now, you and I have 3 weeks to submit views on the proposed charges, fees and levies by the State Department of Immigration and Citizen Services. The new levies, which sparked debate, have since been reviewed and Kenyans invited to make their submissions by December 8th. Now, Joseph Wahungo reports the court of the public opinion remains divided on the sum of the proposals contained in the Gazette notice. Here's a report.
With the January 1st, 2024 proposed date for implementation of revised fees, levies and charges for immigration and citizen services fast approaching, the government Monday called on Kenyans to submit their views. In a public announcement through a local daily, Immigration and Citizen Services Principal Secretary Julius Bitok says, and I quote, "The changes in the levies, charges and fees was informed by the increase in the cost of the respective services over the years and the need to make rendering of the services self-sustaining." Additionally, Bitok called on the public to submit the memorandum at various locations, namely Nyayo House ground floor in Nairobi, regional commissioners, county commissioners, or deputy county commissioners' offices nationwide, or send an email to info.citizenservices@interior.go.ke by 5 p.m. on the 8th of December 2023. Last week, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki published revised fees, with Kenyans seeking to acquire a new ID now required to pay 300 shillings. This has continued to elicit divergent views in the court of public opinion.
Sisi kama wananchi, kama wamama tunaumia. Juu wenyewe hatuna pesa hiyo ya kulipia.
Angalia situation ya wananchi venye sasa, situation iko, maisha iko juu sana. Kitu ya kwanza, mwananchi mdogo ukimwambia akipoteza kama ni kitambulisho, aweza aende kumwambia ndo Huduma Center hapa TPO achukue na 2000, ni kwake ni ngumu. Pengine kwake jioni hiyo 2,000 angeweza kulipa ama enda nunue mboga na unga kwake nyumbani.
Meanwhile, a section of men of the cloth are opposed to the increment of the charges to acquire a marriage certificate from the current 5,000 shillings to 50,000 shillings, arguing young people will shy away from registering their marriages.
Hii ada ambayo sasa inawekwa ya certificate ya marriage, hiyo ikiwa kiwango ya juu zaidi, hata vijana youth watatoroka kutoka kanisa, watakosa kanisani, na sasa kanisa tukikosa wale youth, tutakosa wacha Mungu katika nchi yetu.
Sentiments echoed by Kenya Internally Displaced Persons Organization, who termed the increase of the fees to access government services as unfair and inhumane.
Mukiweka conditions kwa marriage certificate, itakuwa marriage ni blackout. Itakuwa hatari katika taifa, na tutakuwa tunaelekezwa kwa zile mambo za marriage za contract na vitu mbaya mbaya zitakuja kutuadhiri.
Quite a passionate opinion there in regard to the proposed changes. For this to actually hold water, you and I have 3 weeks to submit this particular opinions, or rather give your views in regard to the proposed changes up until the 5 p.m. on the 8th of December. You can actually drop them at Nyayo House, or even I do an email in regard to that particular situation. I don't know how many of us are going to opt to actually, put our opinion in paper, or we are going to remain, on social media platforms complaining about the proposed increase to the levies there from the Immigration and Citizen Services. I'm Regina Manyara. I want to wish you a great day ahead. But before we go, let's address an issue that is unemployment among the youth, where the plan for Kenya to export more labor abroad has seen the Ministry of Labor and Skills Development and the Ministry of Diaspora Affairs develop a global labor market strategy to hasten the process of labor migration in the country. This strategy will also inform the immigration roadmap for people leaving the country to work abroad. Yesterday, President William Ruto said his administration aims to send 3,000 to 5,000 Kenyans abroad weekly as part of efforts to address the high rate of unemployment in the country. Joy has the details.
Youth unemployment in Kenya is approximated to be about 35%, with about 4.5 million young men and women currently unemployed. Roslyn Njogu, the Principal Secretary of Diaspora Affairs, attributed the high unemployment rates to the lack of expansion of the economy to create adequate jobs to absorb graduates to the labor market.
What you notice here is that the unemployment challenge is really a demographic challenge, or our unemployment challenge is a youth challenge. Most of the people, as you will see further, who are unemployed are actually young people.
The government is, however, expanding its alternatives to unemployment in the country.
Wengi wametuuliza tunahitaji vijana wa Kenya watusaidie katika digital jobs. Wewe unafanya kazi hapa Bomet, lakini unafanya kazi kampuni iko Marekani ama iko Ujerumani ama iko Ulaya ama iko mahali ingine. Tumekubaliana na hawa bunge, kwa sababu ni lazima tupange ajira ya vijana wa Kenya.
Through the Global Labour Market Strategy 2023-2027, the Ministry of Labour and Skills Development and the Ministry of Diaspora Affairs seeks to promote labour migration in the country.
The strategy exists to help us increase the number of Kenyans joining the international labour market. But this is a trend we have already seen. Our friends from ASMAC and Kapea will tell you that this has been happening. In other words, we will continue to see Kenyans joining the international labour market, whether government does anything about it or not.
Njogu emphasized the importance of educating those going abroad on their rights, explaining how the youth can get verified job opportunities.
But perhaps the most important thing that we have now is training that ensures that before Kenyans can go out, they are very clear on what their rights are, and this is both in the pre-departure training and pre-migration training arrangements that are coming up soon, to ensure that Kenyans know what their rights are, what to expect, Simple things like there is nobody who has a right to take away your passport, for example. So these are things that Kenyans need to know.
One, matchers, they will now have a source of living, a source of income to cater for their basic necessities. But number two, we're also going to get a lot of foreign exchange into our country so that we're able to address particularly the biggest challenge that we have, which is the loans that we have to service. That's number one. But number two, we're also encouraging them to remit back whatever they're able to earn there so that they can come and invest in our country.
The Ministry of Labour has put emphasis on checking the ministry's website to identify verified private agencies, cautioning against scammers.
We don't want Kenyans to be duped in any way. We are encouraging them to go to the National Employment Agency website, where we have listed all the licensed private employment agencies. They are all there. I would wish to alert Kenyans that the ones that are in red are the ones that were vetted recently and found to be wanting, and therefore, in case they advertise for any positions, then they shouldn't apply for those positions at all. The ones that are in black are the ones that are actually vetted, and we have no problem with them. They are listed there deliberately in black so that Kenyans can then apply for the jobs that they upload.
According to the Central Bank of Kenya, remittances from Kenyans living in the diaspora have grown to 53.9 billion shillings in October compared to 51.6 billion shillings in September.
And this morning, the Federation of Kenya Employers is holding a press briefing in regard to the landscape when it comes to matters of employment. I am on that bit, and you can be sure you'll have the details in the course of the subsequent bulletins. That puts a cap on matters in the headlines. Be sure to peruse our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke, and we continue appreciating your feedback on X at KBC Channel 1. My X handle is at Ray Manyara. Have a pleasant viewing.
What's wrong with you, Mom? Why didn't you tell me that you were dealing with something like this? I would have been there for you.
I didn't want to worry you.
After I convinced them to go abroad, do you think you can still stay in Beijing?
I don't have time for this. You know what? I don't have any time for whatever game you're playing. If you don't come out, then I'm going back.
Hey, would you come with me if I went abroad? You want to persuade me to let my son stay?
No wonder he's so smart, because you're smart.
Flattering me isn't gonna help.
Did you buy it?
I bought it so that I could drive you around, especially during winter. That way I can also make sure to keep you warm.
Music can be magical. It's the soul for life and gives immense peace to us. It has a powerful therapeutic effect on the human psyche. Whether secular or gospel. There's a song for everyone, every occasion, and every emotion.
God bless you.
What's wrong with you, Mom? Why didn't you tell me that you were dealing with something like this? I would have been there for you.
I didn't want to worry you.
After I convinced them to go abroad, do you think you can still stay in Beijing?
I don't have time for this. You know what? I don't have any time for whatever game you're playing. If you don't come out, then I'm going back.
Hey, would you come with me if I went abroad?
You want to persuade me to let my son stay? No wonder he's so smart, because you're smart. Flattering me isn't gonna help. Did you buy it?
I bought it so that I could drive you around, especially during winter. That way I can also make sure to keep you warm.
Guess what? It's your good friend and loyal partner, Claudio. He's the one who took it.
Olga mentioned to me that he was also involved in the murder of Carolina.
Olga? I've got nothing to do with those drugs!
Transporting it. So the charges will be against you.
Where are they? They shouldn't get away from us. You two check over there. You
Yes,
come
sir.
with me. Hurry up!
I've just recalled everything. Now I'm going to do what I should have done long before. I am going to tell the truth.
But getting cold feet?
No, certainly not.
All nation rise.
Childhood mortality, or in simple terms, childhood deaths, is an indicator of a society's or a nation's well-being and socio-economic status.
From this report again, we see that there is high male-female mortality compared to female. Under 5 mortality is at par in both rural and urban. It's at 41 deaths per 1,000 live births.
But what are some of the interventions that are being put, and what would you advise?
Delivery at a health facility will improve the chances of the mother and the child surviving.
Welcome back. It's now 10 minutes past 7. We are getting into people and politics. And before we continue with this, let's look at what is happening on our roads here in the city. It's a rainy day today, and things are not looking good on Thika Road, especially when you are approaching on your way past the KCA University. There is traffic build up there. Then on the same is spilling over to Kiambu Road on your way to the DCI. On your way to Pangani, there is the road looks clear. Then there is traffic build up around Nairobi Gymkhana. Let's look at Mombasa Road now. And Mombasa Road looks clear for now, and except for a few build-up along on your way to the Nairobi West Hospital, that intersection over there. Yes. On your way from Westlands, the roads look clear. I hope you can see clearly. The roads look clear. Let's look at what is happening on Gong Road on your way towards the CBD. The road looks clear. The traffic situation along Gong Road is looking quite good, except for a few build-ups along on your way to Kilimani Estate, a few build-ups along that part of the road. Let's look at what is happening on the Jogoo Road. Jogoo Road, Hamjambo. There's a little build-up on your way from around Makadara. There's a little build-up of traffic coming all the way to joining Lusaka Road. There's a little build-up of traffic. And on your way to Gikomba Market, the road looks clear. Yes, it's a rainy day in Nairobi. That is the traffic situation along major roads in the city. All right. Let's look at what is happening in the papers, and in studio, joined by Daniel Orogo, who is a political analyst, and we'll be talking to him in the course of the program. All right. Let's see what is happening on the Star newspaper. Maize and rice tax waivers cost taxpayers money, around 16 billion. This could be higher, and CS didn't disclose the surrendered cash as a result of sugar import. That story is continued on page 6 of the Star newspaper. And just to look at it, what it's saying, state lost 16.5 billion in importation of rice and maize, says CS Linturi. The Agriculture Committee, MPs have poked holes in the importation of sugar, maize and rice, even as it emerged that the country lost 16.5 billion due to tax waivers. There's also a story involving 3 injured as exam papers chopper crashes in Wajir. This happened yesterday as a chopper ferrying exam papers crashed in Wajir. Now, another story that is making headlines in the Star newspaper is Raila now goes for Churchill and CS Churchill and Dongo as oil deal gets murkier. This is in relation to the ongoing saga revolving around the oil importation saga that is amounting to 17 billion shillings. And the Star is saying Kenyans will have noticed that even as the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum was signing deals with state-owned corporations in the Middle East, our own National Oil Corporation is completely left out. This is according to Raila Odinga, and this has sparked debate in the country over the past few days. Yes. All right. There's another story on the Star. NCIC to probe Natembeya of alleged hate speech, remark, and ethnic contempt. You will read that story on page 8 of the Star newspaper. And the Meteorological Department predicts heavy rains. And it's evident that the heavy rains that are pounding in the country are causing havoc, and they have displaced people and have caused even loss of life. And this, according to the Meteorological Department, is going to continue for some time. So brace yourself, because the Meteorological Department warns of this heavy downpour. All right. As we continue, we look at I welcome my guest, Daniel Orogo. He's a political analyst. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Yes. How are you doing today?
Very well.
Yes. Mvua imekupata wapi?
It's been a rainy season here. And,
yes.
The weatherman had given us an indication.
Yes.
That is going to be heavy and is going to be wet.
Yes.
So in the city, we are expecting
a
lot of interruptions here because of the change of weather and all that comes with heavy downpour.
Yes.
Yes.
So now let me ask regarding in the floods that we are witnessing in various parts of the country, how is it poking holes on how prepared we are in terms of disaster preparedness, especially when it comes to rains? And also, does it highlight a deficit in the way we do in terms of in matters regarding water harvesting?
Well, I think seasons come, seasons goes about the extreme weather change, and I think everyone knows that we are witnessing a tragic climate change for over a decade. We can see that rains are pounding the abnormally, that is not expected, and that when we always at extreme, when drought comes, and then it's also on the extreme.
Yes.
So I think we were all indicated and warned about the vagaries of the climate change globally, and this is coming on a backdrop of the COP28 that is coming in Dubai, where all leaders are trying to come together to discuss matters of climate justice, climate transition, and all this transition from to green energy. But however, I see a situation where, like you've said and indicated, that over a decade we have always been here, that when it's dry, it's dry to the extreme. And when the weatherman gives an indication that we are expecting a downpour, the ministries and the allied agencies really do not work in hand. What they do is actually to prepare for, to mitigate the disaster, and actually not really prepare on the long term. Like you said, water harvesting, like you said, other matters that might come with harnessing, not only water, but all other resources that comes with, with the rain in itself. So I think it's a warning. It's not really a warning. It exposes our bad manners of failing to plan always when we are given an indication of circumstances. So in other words,
we are reactive.
Yes, is a nation that is more reactive as opposed to being proactive, and it's putting us in a very precarious position in this country.
Yes. In terms of policy, it also points to, does it mean that we have weak policies when it comes to disaster management, or in this case, water harvesting?
Well, I think if there is any country that has enrolled a lot of policies, that other countries really come and borrow all these policies, and goes and implement them, is this country. Yes. I mean, you've all heard the says that you see, when you really want the best practices, visit Kenya and visit their shelves, and get the policies, go and implement them. So we have the best policies ever as a country. I believe that from independence, post-independence, from different regime has spelled out different policies that deals with disaster management, and even does it not only look at in the the national government. I mean, even there is a full discussions on the county preparedness for disasters. Governors gives a report quite often on how prepared are they with disaster management. Rain, drought, different issues, fires, disaster that comes with, different things, the natural causes that causes this particular disaster. But I think it's like I keep saying and until, something that happens to the extreme, then that it triggers action. But when we sit at our comfort zone, we are being warned. I don't see us looking at it as terms of something that is coming. So yes, we have the best policies, but I think, like you said, we are waiting for an issue to strike, and then we react to that kind of, a disaster at that particular time.
So there's that time when it was said El Nino is not coming. Is it as a result of what we are experiencing right now? Is it as a result of a scale down in terms of the preparedness that was supposed to be put in place?
But I think it's the weatherman, because you could see, I mean, there are people who are very specialized in reading and in weather forecasting. Yes. I mean, when we are watching the interview of a representative of the Kenya Meteorological Department recently, the issue is that he indicated that they started monitoring this change of weather way back in June. And they informed the whole country about the impending, El Nino that was coming. At some level, even us as Kenyans, I think we did not really give them enough support. We did not really agree with them that that was going to be true. You could read even from the social media the kind of bashing that was coming from Kenyans.
Yes.
And I think Kenyans were reacting because a number of times the department has given up their forecasting, but has not really, materialized.
Yes.
So I think for us Kenyans, we are at a spotlight that when, professionals are trying to give us a message for us to really begin to plan. Instead of bashing them, I think we could really be prepared. So even the government agencies, to a point when the top government agencies really also got into this kind of conversation, trying to say that we are going to experience really some heavy rains, but not El Nino. And then the whole plan of disaster preparedness, the allied ministries that were summoned, there's a little bit of scale down. And then now, boom, we are into this. And we scaled down. Some of the counties were not prepared. And you could see what is going on right now.
Yes.
It is contempt for professionalism.
Yes.
It's contempt for us not listening to key professionals or people who are advising us on what to come ahead.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Let's look at what the Daily Nation is saying. Underwater, that is the headline on the front page of the Daily Nation. It's continuing to say, record rains have pounded several parts of the country over the past few weeks, leaving death and devastation in their wake. 20 people dead, more than 80,000 families displaced, and 33 counties drenched. Tourism has also been hit as floods submerged coast hotels. SGR cargo has been delayed, while towns, estates, and villages across the country have been marooned. El Nino is here, and the toll is climbing. What is the economic implication of of such like disasters as at now?
I think one is that in such an extreme occurrences, transport, and infrastructure has been destroyed in some parts.
Yes.
Some of the major roads have been, rendered impassable. You have seen that in many other places, some bridges are no longer, you cannot cross them again.
Yes.
In some areas in this country where farming has been practiced, people can no longer, go to their shambas and, carry out their own agriculture. You've also seen that even as we speak, we are having some unpredictable blackouts. And you know very well the energies and the power, that really contributes to the running of a number of, economic productivity in this country. So different things that have come, and like you've mentioned that, unprecedented floods. The issues are economical. The issues are, astronomically humanitarian as we talk. You've seen that the Kenya Red Cross have equally given a warning and have been, given statistics on the number of damages to infrastructure, to humanity, to crop and agricultural production, to livestock, and all over. So I think this is what we are able to witness, that there is huge losses that comes with what we are going back, unpreparedness. Failing to plan is planning to fail. And as a country, I think this should be hard on us because a repeated mistake is a decision.
Yes.
So they say. So every time we are repeating the same mistakes, it indicates that we made a decision to be complacent by not really taking into consideration that we should be prepared to handle such emergencies that comes with natural causes and disasters that we are seeing from this weather. Yes.
So now, what can we do? Because we are looking at floods, waters everywhere. And in a few months after the rains, we'll experience drought. We'll have animals dying. We'll have probably food crisis. How do we go about this? How do we ensure that we capitalize on whatever is in terms of water harvesting to prepare for the next phase in cases where we have drought?
You have, maybe you heard of an initiative that was called Kenyans for Kenyans.
Yeah.
We can give a reference to it. That when drought, I think some years when in some parts of this country there was an extreme droughts and there was unprecedented deaths.
Yes.
And, Kenyans came together on a basket fund, to make their contribution and support other Kenyans who were affected. And Kenya Red Cross rolled out a plan not only to deal with that emergency crisis and humanitarian crisis that were there, but also enroll a long-term sustainability plan in that particular region that was hit by disaster and drought at the extreme. And when media went and gave the progress of what was going on years after, we really saw that there was a progress. That even after that, the funds that were contributed, people enrolled in agriculture and did some crop production and irrigation in those areas. So I always provide a reference to that, especially in drought and in floods like this. In a situation where we are facing floods, and normally a challenge comes with expanse countries, counties, for example, Mandera, Turkana, Marsabit, that are so expansive. So, and I think both the national government and the county government is prudent enough to come up with, roll out a serious water harvesting, initiative in these areas. Roll out a serious, massive education, because I think that is also what we really do not see. It's good to have a civic education and educate people, and at that county level have the county government begin to educate people, especially on how to deal with crises like this, proactively. Not waiting to evacuate people in highlands areas, but equally warn them that in situation where you have been given an indication by different agencies, it is important in earnest to begin evacuation, but also important in earnest to have some, savings around your crop production, so that when it hits, you are prepared about it. But also the national government through the Ministry, of Agriculture, and also Allied Ministry, Kenya Meteorological Department, I think is equally important to roll out education to people. Not only civic education that normally we see during elections and all this, but I think matters that affect the citizenry of the Republic, civic education is required.
We take a short break. We'll be right back.
Guess what? It's your good friend and loyal partner, Claudio. He's the one who took it.
Olga mentioned to me that he was also involved in the murder of Carolina.
Olga? I've got nothing to do with those drugs!
Transporting it. So the charges will be against you.
Where are they? They shouldn't get away from us. You two check over there. You come with me. Hurry up!
I've just recalled everything. Now I'm going to do what I should have done long before. I am going to tell the truth. But getting cold feet? No. Certainly not.
All nation rise.
Welcome back. The segment is People and Politics on Good Morning Kenya. And I have a guest in studio who's Daniel Orogo, who's a political analyst. We are expecting to have Honorable Harold Abdul Ibrahim, MP Mandera South, and Joseph Mathai, who is a governance expert and businessman. We continue with what is happening on the dailies. And still on the first page of the Daily Nation, there's a story there about Raila Odinga calling for the resignation of CS Chirchir and CS Ndongo over the oil deal. Resign, Raila tells Chirchir and Ndongo over oil deal. Azimio leader Raila Odinga has called for the immediate resignation of Energy Cabinet Secretary Davis Chirchir and his National Treasury counterpart Njuguna Ndongo over the government-to-government oil deal. Odinga further demanded that the government tables evidence of an existing government-to-government deal and of Kenya having paid for the fuel in Kenya shillings. Bwana Osoro, what do you think of Raila's call for the resignation of the two CSs?
Well, I think I would approach that issue on its merit and its political relevancy, but equally try to, interrogate if there is enough evidence already adduced to, this particular issue. We understand that matters energy and matters petroleum, like we've said, is a contributor to the running of economy in this country. Kenyans have been up in arms about the high cost of fuel prices. And a number of people, or citizens, have been questioning why the cost of fuel is expensive in this country compared to other neighbors in the region. This has been explained by the government that in Tanzania, in Uganda, due to some fees, definitely their cost of fuel is quite higher than ours. But I think at a scale, you can be able to see that we are actually aching so deep into the pocket to pay for the cost, and that has made other commodities to skyrocket. At this particular juncture, if there is a G2G deal, and the secrecy around some of these MOUs has come back to this government. Maybe you can remember that the dust has not really settled, even on the request to table a government-to-government deal on the SGR. There have been people asking to see what was the deal that was there, and that the response that came is that such particular documents are very secretful. Now, on this particular one, the head of state has been very equivocal that these particular documents are deposited in Parliament and they're available to whoever would want to see them. Now, that begs the question that Kenyans and led by the opposition leader should really look into that kind of documents that are already deposited with the Parliament to really confirm that the allegations of misappropriation, as alluded to by the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, are equally true. And that secondly, I think calling for resignation would be, what would I say, it's quite earlier for now. I think the Honorable Raila Odinga, as a concerned citizen and as a leader in this country, is right to ask for interrogation and to ask for investigation, speedy investigation to this deal, that this would be expedited. But I think it is incumbent of the allied particular agencies to confirm beyond reasonable doubt that certain individuals that are mentioned in this particular case and saga are responsible and are held responsible given the fact that the evidence adduced to these particular allegations are true. And these bequeath the agencies of Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, the agencies, the Directorate of Criminal Investigation, and even the parliamentary committee that is quasi-judicial, to to expedite and summon these particular individuals that are mentioned in this deal and others that have not been mentioned to come forward and, give their particular, side of the story. Something that strikes me is the level and the magnitude of allegations that we are equally witnessing.
Yes.
It's so difficult for Kenyans to comprehend what these billions, the quality of these billions that have been, mentioned. Okay, you remember that in the NYS scandal, there was a face of a woman that was involved, Josephine Kavura, still having a case. All right.
Yes.
In this particular scandal, there's another face of another lady that is involved.
Yes.
So you will always see the approach of the corruption and the proxies that comes in these allegations. And I think this trend is a trend that we even yet to witness to see. And it's surprising me as a citizen of the Republic that certain individuals would be used in proxies, so to say, to handle this kind of mega corruption that runs into millions and billions that cost Kenyans taxpayers a lot of money. This is a concern to me. Yes.
Well, Raila is saying the National Oil Corporation was left out in this government-to-government deal in favor of private entities. Does that speak to the transparency of the process or lack thereof?
That's what I've said, that the government-to-government deals have got a clear procedure. And you've even seen that the head of state has come out to even educate and give the public how this was done. But like I keep saying is, when it gets to political hand, then we risk politicizing this particular, scandal, unfortunately.
Yes.
And it's so unfortunate that, however, I wish that, for example, the civil society, the allied agencies, could have been the ones that would have tracked this kind of conversation. And in that sense, they could have given us step by step on how this was expedited. But unfortunately, when it leads to the affiliations of government and opposition, we really risk losing this kind of an objective conversation, because the opposition side would give their view that we lost it because certain agencies were not given an opportunity on how the law requires to do certain, what they're expected to do. On the other hand, the government would come out and say, these guys are accusing us on this other end because of political. So what I'm saying is that, could we now take this out of politicians? And I always ask that we have competent agencies that are able to give Kenya an explanation how we risk losing billions because we neglected and we put this in private hands instead of giving it to the public agencies to handle the government-to-government deals. Yes.
Now, when we talk about government-to-government deals, and right now we are dealing with fuel, and Kenyans are crying that the prices are high. How then does government-to-government deals, in your own perspective, impact global prices of oil?
Because global prices of oil, and we operate in rather capitalistic societies where, and Kenya is one of them. We are not a communist society. We are a bit capitalistic. And in that sense is that we open a free market of free willing buyer, willing seller. And therefore, the free market economy competes in a sense that you can do your bidding, and the one that comes up with a good bidder, wins the tender.
Yes.
And in that sense, it is guaranteed that economy competes that way. But now, like I keep on saying, is that, you see, this is a government issue. This is a public and a taxpayers initiative led by the government.
Yes.
Where, for example, like you've alluded to, in one way or the other, Kenyans will pay. And the payment, there's a discussion whether we are paying it in dollars or in Kenya shillings. So either way, we are going to pay what is concerned. So the issue is that we would not want to pay what will lead and will led into the hands of private individuals as opposed to public, individuals. So I think this is where we have lost the whole of this conversation. if we imported oil and these government-to-government deals, then there is an allegation that in between the negotiations and the cartels that Kenyans are accustomed to might have found their way to channel this particular petroleum so that it could be distributed by the private agencies instead of the public agencies or the government agencies. So I think this is the whole allegations. When we hand it now to private individuals, there's a risk of hiking the prices. There's a risk of hoarding the petroleum products. There's so many risks that comes with it because now it's in the hands of private firms. This is the whole concern about where did this money go? Who is in charge of regulating the market prices the moment the oil docks into the into the port of Mombasa? This is the conversation that is there.
Now, what is the role of, where does auditing come in this whole saga of 17 billion shillings oil? What role does the audit, and when can it be done so that Kenyans can rest assured that there was nothing shady about the deal?
In public accounts, the Auditor General, the Office of the Auditor General, the Office of the Solicitor General, advised by the Attorney General, the Office of the Ministry of Finance, and the responsible ministry. In this case, the responsible ministry is the Ministry of Petroleum and Energy. In this case, the Ministry of Finance. In this case, who authorized that kind of expending or that kind of initiative comes with the controller of budget. And you hear in the press statement by the Right Honorable, he's commenting the controller of budget as to why the lady has been bold enough to come up with initiative that has recounted that their role really were not really considered in this particular initiative. In this sense, we've also, where is the Office of the Solicitor General in this issue? Who advised the government on this kind of mega expenditure? So I think that's why I've said we would risk, because this is a matter that is now being discussed and has been referred to the Allied Ministry. What we are saying is that we hope that the ministry, the agencies, the institutions that are allied to fast-track the investigation, there's been a goodwill by the head of state saying that in this government, such a scandal would be unheard of. We hope that the goodwill of the head of state in fighting corruption and how brazen he has come out to say that this is not going to happen in this part of regime, we hope that now the government and the head of state would mobilize the allied agencies to track down and call for a response and explicit explanation to the allied agencies that I've mentioned. I mean, C.S. Rotich was heckled. I think there was a video going around about the Kenyans' dissatisfaction on how we are handling the running of economy in this country, and how we are running this country. I think that should have sent a signal, because the head of state was in that particular function. That should have sent a signal to the government that Mwananchi is getting tired of this kind of explanations, of this kind of declarations, but actions are not really expedited. So I hope that moving forward, we're going to see an explanation soon rather than later on what has been happening and how this is being fast-tracked.
Let's look. The politics of fuel is what is making headlines on the first page of the Standard newspaper. And still on that matter, the Finance Ministry is said to have invoked Article 223 that gives it power to spend money and seek parliamentary approval later. Is it a case of, let's do this, kesi baadaye?
I mean, that's why, some level of how sometimes I contend with analyzing issues, and especially when I found myself in a situation where analysts do not really understand how government works. It is incumbent for us to know how the government works, because you've just made that there was an article that was invoked by the Ministry of Finance. And, the ministry reaching out to the parliament to invoke certain particular articles for them to take a decisive action. One of the issues that I keep saying is that the government, and you've had people taken to court because they have invoked certain orders and have exploited the loopholes in the constitution. And have put it before a parliament that, our parliament is questionable in some extent, because we've seen members of parliament here, and I hope we could have had one of them.
Yes.
We are expecting
one.
that we have been in a house of, where people ask, can you put the question so that we vote? You understand?
Yes.
However much you appear in the floor, we've seen parliamentarians complaining that the house has become a voting machine instead of a debating institution.
Yes.
That in this sense, we have run to a risk of evoking the tyranny of numbers. Who have the majority? Instead of, can the House debate soberly on a matter that has been raised in the floor? There's a lot of loopholes that have been used by different agencies, especially in the government, to exploiting certain gaps, to put out some pieces of legislation or initiatives that have later come back to haunt the whole process. And in this case, even the article that have been evoked, if you look at Kinley, I think the hurried nature of passing this kind of money bill sometimes, the hurried nature of passing out this, because people are telling you, if you do not pass this, we risk, because of the timelines that I've given. And Parliament as a whole, or Senator as a whole, or parliamentary committees have received orders to pass out some pieces of legislation that could have required some public participation. And I think you've seen a number of court decisions have been made because of the lack of meaningful public participation and the lack of meaningful civic engagement. So I think in this case, you've seen it is a matter that will, and trust me, this is an issue that the courts would have to exploit, and the court will give us a ruling based on that particular article that have been evoked. Yes.
The politics of fuel. This is a story that is continued on page 6 of the Standard newspaper. And on page 4 of the same newspaper, how Treasury Ministry abused Supreme Law provision to tap billions for deals. Treasury allegedly invoked Article 223 to increase allocations for the Petroleum Ministry, giving it access to funds that may have been used to finance the 17 billion diesel cargo. Raila wants 2 CSs to resign and be prosecuted for spending monies way above what Parliament approved. All right, let's look at what is happening on the front page of the People Daily. It's still the same case or the same story of the fuel saga. Raila wants CSs to quit. And we'll see how that story pans out. Reprieve for 67 officers as court holds suspension. Judiciary has issued orders stopping Felix Koskei from suspending 12 for 12 months over links to graft. Raila wants 2 ministers to quit over fuel scam. This story has, we have just highlighted it, and it's making headlines, and it's a continuation of the story regarding the oil scandal, or the saga that surrounds the 17 billion oil, and Raila is calling for the resignation and prosecution of the 2 CSs, that is Davis Chiuchiu and Njuguna Ndungu. Families in flood-prone areas in counties given urgent aid. The national and county governments have teamed up with Red Cross and other institutions to provide help. That story is told on page 6 of the Star newspaper. Kenya Coast Guard set for bigger role in changes. You can read that story on the on page 7 of the People Daily. There's a story I wanted to tackle a little bit, and concerns the politics of Meru County. Collection of signatures to dissolve Meru. This story is told on page 10 of the Daily Nation. A group of Meru residents, in collaboration with members of the civil society, have launched a collection of signatures seeking the dissolution of the county government. My question to you is, to what extent do these impeachment cases, to what extent, to what level do we entertain the impeachment cases to the extent that counties have to be dissolved for things to run normally?
I mean, the dissolution of a county government is stipulated in the Constitution, how a whole county can be, dissolved or suspended. And in this case, I was on a different platform, and I just 2 weeks ago, I foresaw that it was going to reach a level where the whole operations of the Meru County government might be suspended because of the squabbles, the unending, the unresolved. And it doesn't look that there's going to find a solution anytime soon. The Meru issue has been in the Senate twice.
Yes.
The first time could be last year in December. And then this year again. And then it is headed to the third time, where it seems that now the citizens are now resolving to take matters in their hands.
Yes.
As enshrined with the Constitution, that the power belongs to the people,
yes,
in the exercise of their Constitution. So the supremacy battle between the county executive and the county assembly seems not to end. There have been different measures that have been deployed to try to calm down those particular issues.
Yes.
The Meru County government, the national government through the office of the deputy president has called for dialogue twice. The Meru elders have called for a dialogue, and the Senate has equally asked them to sit and resolve. It seems not resolvable. So the people, the good people of Meru, have evoked their constitutional mandate to try to dissolve the whole county. Let me say that is their constitutional mandate. In the absence of failing to solve it at the Senate, in the absence of failing to solve it using different alternative to violence and embracing dialogue, it seems not to be visible. So I think it is their mandate, it is their right. I am not saying that it has reached a level where that should be done, but I think also the people of Meru should also weigh in the consequences of their decision. One is that in a process of doing that, it is costly to do that, because that then would require that you collect a number of signatures, I think some percentage in line with the voting population, to make sure that you have a threshold, and that would also be taken higher up and handed over to the head of state ultimately to dissolve that county and call for a fresh election. They should know that within that time they may not be able to get the services as well, because of the initiative of the actions that they have evoked. This was once tried by the government of Kivutha Kibwana. You can remember that particular case. And I think it took the head of state, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, to bring order to that county by revoking that particular initiative that the county government of, I think, was not going to get dissolved, that people would go back to dialogue and see. So I am equally upbeat about what would happen in Meru. But I seated here, I would advise the people of Meru to still evoke matters of dialogue and alternative conflict resolution mechanism, and try to talk to the executive and to the county assembly to sit together and resolve. Because in the absence of this, this is costing them. This back and forth is costing them, and it generally is painting the whole county government of Meru and the people of Meru on a bad light. On the nation. You heard the politics of what the stick was all about, and people wondering what is this issue about using a stick on this particular manner, and the whole issue about women leadership. I mean, it's not good for the image of the Meru County, as well nationally and internationally. So I think I would advise that it's incumbent on this government to, even the national government, to try, even if they do not want to get directly concerned or directly involved, to try to have mechanisms to resolve this issue of Mary County alternatively.
Yes.
But if it fails, I think we will then let the people of Meru take matters in their hands, because it is their constitutional right. Nobody can compel them otherwise. It is them. They know where the shoe, pinches them most.
Yes.
And I think it's important for them to evolve.
Yes.
If push comes to shove. Yeah.
Yes. Daniel Orogo, a political analyst, speaking to us on People and Politics on Good Morning Kenya. People and Politics raps. It's a rap for People and Politics.
Let me also, because now you say it's a rap, I think my parting shot is, one, we can see where politicians are taking us as a people.
Yes.
One, we've had the National Dialogue Committee sitting for months, trying to give us a solution for this country after the post-election conflict that we saw at the 2022.
Yes.
Mugu, relax, because we started a bit late, so I would give my submission. So one of the things that we should evoke as a citizen of the Republic of Kenya is that a time has come when we can no longer ask for an extension of the committee. We can no longer agree to the fact that Parliament would discuss and pass out some piece of regulations that is not in line with what is affecting the citizens. I would also join in the rest of civil society in Kenya and say that if the cost of living is not part of the discussion that was discussed by the National Dialogue Committee, is either way that the committee did not really expedite what Kenyans must feel. And in this sense, I think it's bequeathed the Kenyans, again, to ask for the review of this initiative post-election.
Yes. So thank you for gracing our show. This is Daniel Orogo, who is a political analyst gracing our People and Politics segment. I have been your host, Mike Megwe. Good Morning Kenya takes a short break and we'll be back on Radio Taifa and still on KBC Channel 1. My name is Mike Megwe. Good morning.
What's wrong with you, Mom? Why didn't you tell me that you were dealing with something like this? I would have been there for you.
I didn't want to worry you.
After I convince them to go abroad, do you think you can still stay in Beijing?
I don't have time for this. You know what? I don't have any time for whatever game you're playing. If you don't come out, then I'm going back.
Hey, would you come with me if I went abroad?
You want to persuade me to let my son stay?
No wonder he's so smart, because you're smart.
Flattering me isn't gonna help.
Did you buy it?
I bought it so that I could drive you around, especially during winter. That way I can also make sure to keep you warm.
It's a cocktail of emotions. The puns that cracks up the family. Greed that yields power and a hunger for success. Friends turn to foes. Survival for the fittest is the drive.
Who are we blackmailing?
But nothing beats the feud in a family where one disappears and another fights for the crown.
It was not supposed to go this far.
It's the desire to succeed that keeps us going, the deception that keeps us digging, and the laughter pill that keeps us living.
The sounds of happy chimps at the Sweet Waters Chimpanzee Sanctuary in Old Pejeta Conservancy in central Kenya. the jovial mood as they play and groom each other, however, belies the trauma that befell them in the wild. They escaped from being killed for their meat or kept as pets in the Middle East.
Over the past decade, the Sweetwater Sanctuary has been compelled to take in chimpanzees rescued from traumatic situations, some of them rescued from cramped and unnatural living conditions, with most of them nursing injuries from human abuse.
One of the first to call Sweetwater's home is 35-year-old Max, who had been raised by a French film crew in the 1980s. Despite his playful tantrums and spontaneous screaming, he is a performer who will charm you with his antics.
Because of their intelligence, some of them they've been attempting. They've been attempting to escape. They've been trying to disconnect the power. They've been trying to short-circuit the electric fence by using the dry sticks.
Chimps aren't native to Kenya. In 1995, a chimpanzee was rescued from Burundi, where he'd been held in this small cage suspended from the ceiling without enough room for him to sit or lie. After years of standing on two legs, his pelvic muscles were so underdeveloped that he became bipedal, like a human.
They have extraordinary strength, so they are 4 times stronger than the strongest man in the world.
Illegal wildlife trade is devastating wildlife species across the globe as poachers, traffickers and highly organized criminal syndicates ruthlessly pursue profit at any cost to meet consumer demand for bushmeat. Demand for bushmeat from the illegal hunting of wildlife like elephants, bats, antelopes, monkeys and great apes is on the rise, with roughly 500 African species sold in economically well-off African cities or exported to Europe annually.
You know, these chimpanzees, they are very, very, very expensive to maintain, so it normally costs us around 450,000 every year for each chimpanzee. So in case if a newborn is born accidentally, we control the breeding because of the cost.
In the year 2016, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, uplisted the western chimpanzee from endangered to critically endangered, reflecting the subspecies' increasingly dire conservation status.
So our main aim here is just to give them the better life because they were abused, they were traumatized, so they will spend the rest of their life in this sanctuary. Because also, you know, this is not their natural habitat, so they live in a tropical rainforest, and this is a savanna woodland area.
However, humans who eat bushmeat risk transmission of diseases from the animal. To curb this trade and avert the health risks, hunting quotas have to be enforced, the remaining species be protected, and civic education on bushmeat be conducted. For KBC Channel 1, I'm Alvin Kaunda.
Mtazamaji wa KBC Channel 1, vilevile msikilizaji wa KBC Radio Taifa Sauti ya Mkenya, tunakutana tena kwenye Gumzo Pevu Jumanne ya leo, wakati ambapo tunaangazia masuala ambayo yana umuhimu katika jamii yetu na vile vile katika taifa la Kenya. Kukuletea Gumzo Pevu, mimi naitwa Dora Manya, na ili kufuatilia majadiliano ya siku ya leo pia unaweza kutufuatilia katika njia yetu ya mitandao KBC Radio Taifa Sauti ya Mkenya, au pia kupitia KBC Channel 1 kwenye Twitter ama X, na vile vile katika mtandao wetu wa Facebook Facebook, na hii leo tutakuwa tunaangazia masuala ya mageuzi katika idara ya usalama. Kwa hivyo nakukaribisha ukaandamane pamoja nasi tukaweze kuelimika kwa masuala ambayo tunakwenda kuangazia. Na mtazamaji na msikilizaji, wiki iliyopita jopo liloundwa kuchunguza mageuzi kwenye idara ya usalama liliweza kuwasilisha ripoti na mapendekezo yake kwa Rais Daktari William Ruto katika ikulu ya Nairobi. Jopo hilo liliongozwa na Jaji Mkuu wa zamani David Maraga. Rais Daktari William Ruto aliagiza kuundwa kwa jopo hilo mnamo tarehe 22 Disemba mwaka wa 2022 kupenda mwaka jana, na jopo hilo lilipewa jukumu la kukusanya masuala yote yanayohusu idara za usalama kama vile magereza, idara ya huduma kwa vijana NYS na idara ya huduma ya polisi ukipenda National Police Service. Na baada ya takriban mwaka mmoja hivi jopo hilo lilimaliza kazi yake na kuwasilisha ripoti yake kwa rais. Na kwa muktasari, rais ametaka mapendekezo ya ripoti hiyo yakaweze kutekelezwa, ikiwa ni pamoja na kuongezwa kwa mishahara kwa maafisa hao kwa 40% katika kipindi cha miaka mitatu. Je, ripoti ya jopo hili itasaidia vipi katika kuimarisha maslahi ya walinda usalama katika taifa hili? Ni swali ambalo linaenda kupata jibu sasa hapa studioni, manake nao wageni wawili ambao wanafahamu masuala haya. Na kwanza kabisa studioni ninaye Bwana George Msamali ambaye ni mchanganuzi wa masuala ya usalama. Bwana Msamali, karibu katika studio.
Asante sana.
Tukizungumza masuala ya usalama lazima tukutaje. Asante kutenga muda kufika. Na vile vile mchanganuzi wa masuala ya siasa Bwana David Alulu, hujambo?
Si jambo.
Wiki imekuwa sawa?
Wiki imekuwa sawa, mvua ni mingi. Watu wanasema tuambie president apunguze mvua.
Haya, watasubiri. Rais alisema atapunguza mafuta, hajasema atapunguza mvua. Tasubiria kuona. Karibuni katika studio zetu. Nataka tuanze tukiangazia masuala ya usalama wa taifa na idara ya asasi za usalama. Nataka kwanza nao Bwana George Msamali. Kabla tusonge mbele, juma lililopita bunge liliweza kupitisha mswada ama ukipenda pendekezo la kutuma maafisa wetu kule Haiti kulinda usalama katika nchi ile, na licha pingamizi kutoka kwa Wakenya mbalimbali ambao walikuwa wanasema iweje kwamba kuna tatizo la usalama hapa nchini lakini tunatuma watu kwenda kulinda usalama katika taifa lingine. Sijui maoni yako kuhusu hatua ya bunge kukubaliana kwa kauli moja kutuma maafisa wetu Haiti ni gani?
Kwa kweli hilo ni jambo ambalo tulitarajia, manake Wakenya wengi tusema kwamba hatuna bunge, manake hatujaona wakijadiliana kwa kina haswa sababu ya Kenya kuwapeleka maafisa kule Haiti na tahadhari zake ama manufaa yake kwa taifa ni yatakuwa vipi. Bali wao waliingia moja kwa moja, manake hilo lilikuwa ni takwa la serikali, basi na wakalipitisha moja kwa moja kwamba maafisa waelekee kule Haiti. Lakini mimi naungana na wananchi kusema kwamba, kwa kauli ya wananchi kusema kwamba haingekuwa vema sisi kuwapeleka maafisa kule Haiti, manake ukiangazia historia ya Haiti tanzia mwaka 1915 wakati Marekani iliwapeleka wanajeshi si maafisa wa polisi kule Haiti, wakatoka mwaka 1935. Kisha 1994 Marekani pia moja kwa moja ikapeleka tena wanajeshi kule Haiti, na kisha ikawaondoa bila wao kupata jibu la tatizo la usalama kule Haiti. Umoja wa Mataifa pia ukakuja baadaye ukapeleka ile mission ambayo waliita ya kule Haiti, na wakapeleka wanajeshi kutoka kule Brazil, na moja kwa moja pia wale wanajeshi walishindwa kukimu hali ya usalama katika taifa hilo. Kwa hivyo sisi tumeamkia tu mara moja na kusema kwamba tunapeleka maafisa wa polisi 1000, na kwamba ile roadmap ambayo tunaenda naye kule Haiti si yetu kama Kenya, bali ni jambo ambalo tumesukumiwa tu na mataifa ya kigeni, na kwamba moja kwa moja sisi kama taifa ama serikali imekubali kupeleka maafisa kule. Taifa la Haiti ni taifa ambalo halina serikali hivi sasa. Taifa la Haiti lina zaidi ya makundi 245 ya kihuni ambayo tunatarajia maafisa wetu kwenda kukabiliana nayo, na nafikiri hatuko tayari. Maanake kuna mambo mengi ambayo hatuzingatia, itikadi za kule, mila za kule, lugha ambayo inatumika kule, na mazingira moja kwa moja ambayo maafisa wetu wanaenda kuhudumu kule ni mazingira ambayo kweli yatakuwa ni magumu kwao.
Labda kando na hayo uliyataja, tuangazie uwezo wao, capacity yao kuweza labda kukabiliana na wale magaidi ulivyosema katika nchi ya Haiti, nchi ambayo umesema si rahisi. Marekani mai kutuma wanajeshi kule, lakini kidogo hawajakuwa vizuri. Capacity ya maafisa wetu usalama katika utendakazi katika nchi kama ile unaichukuliaje?
Dora, kweli capacity ipo, manake mafunzo wamepewa, lakini mazingira ndiyo tofauti. Manake unapata kwamba pia hapa Kenya tumewapa ile capacity, tumewapea mafunzo, lakini wakifika kule North Rift mambo yanakuwa ni magumu. Maana hawaelewi ile terrain na unakabiliana na adui ambaye tayari anakufahamu na amejipangia wewe. Ukifika tu anajua jinsi atakabiliana na wewe. Kwa hivyo nafikiri ile capacity tuwezi izungumzia sana, manake mimi nimekuwa mwalimu katika chuo cha mafunzo cha GSU na najua kwamba mafunzo ambayo wanapewa yatawawezesha wao kwenda kuhudumu kule, lakini kuna changamoto zingine nyingi ambazo tungezingatia kabla ya kutoa maafisa hapa na kuwapeleka kule.
Bwana David Alulu, wasemaje, ni kitu ambacho litaraji kwamba bunge litakubaliana maafisa yote waende kule Haiti?
Shukran kwa nafasi hii. Nataka kukanusha lile ambayo mwenzangu amesema kidogo tu, kwa sababu najua bunge haiwezi kuwa tu bunge wakati ambayo inaidhinisha kile kitu ambacho tungependelea iidhinishe. Bunge inabaki kuwa bunge wakati inaidhinisha na wakati pia inakanusha. So nilitarajia bunge iidhinishe, ndio nilitarajia bunge iidhinishe, kwa sababu mambo kama mawili. La kwanza, Kenya is not an isolated state. Kenya is a member of the United Nations. Kenya is a member of the global village. Na wakati ambapo wewe unaishi mtaa mahali alafu jirani yako ashambuliwe ama kuwe na matatizo, kama jirani mwema ama mmoja wa ile sehemu, jukumu lako la kwanza ni kuhakikisha kwamba umechangia usalama na hali kurudi jinsi ambavyo inafaa kuwa, bila kuzingatia sana kwamba ule jambazi ambaye ameshambulia jirani yako ni mzito kiasi gani. You see, one of the things ambayo itatuweka mahali pazuri kama taifa ni wakati ambapo tunakubali licha ya kuwa yule ambaye tunaenda kabiliana naye ana nguvu sana, lakini tumechangia sehemu ya kuhakikisha kwamba we also give our contribution. That is one. Lakini number 2, nashukuru Bwana George amesema amekuwa mwalimu kwa chuo cha GSU na ataelewa kwamba one of the best we have in this region ni maafisa wetu wa usalama. Changamoto zipo na tuache kuangalia hao polisi ambao wanachukua 50 kwa barabara wa traffic, tuachane na wao. Tuko na vitengo ambavyo vinaweza fanya kazi nzuri, na it is not only Kenya that is going to Haiti. I'm sure kuna other nations ambazo zinachangia, na wakati ambapo Umoja wa Mataifa umeitisha msaada na sisi ni wanachama na tumekubali kupeana msaada, na sio majeshi tunatuma polisi. Hapa Kenya tunajua kazi ya polisi ni kulinda, alright, na utumishi kwa wote. So kama wana extend hii favor kwa taifa lingine na wasaidie, mimi nadhani we are best placed as a country. Actually, we are breaking a record kama nchi ya hapa Afrika Mashariki ambayo imejitosa, kwa sababu Kenya tuko na wanajeshi Kongo, Kenya tumekuwa na walinda usalama chini ya Umoja wa Mataifa kwa mataifa mengi tu. So sidhani ili ni jambo la ajabu. Changamoto yake tu ni kwamba ni polisi wanaenda, sio jeshi wanaenda. Okay. Sasa polisi hawaendi vita, wanaenda kusaidia kutuliza amani.
Kwa sababu Kenya labda ni sehemu ya Baraza la Umoja wa Kisalama wa Umoja wa Mataifa, lazima kwamba tungekubali kuwatuma wanajeshi wetu kule, maafisa wetu kule.
Nadhani licha ya kwamba lazima tungekubali, ama sidhani jambo lazima, ni jambo ambalo taifa lingeangalia kuhakikisha kwamba linazingatia tuna uwezo. Sio haikuwa ni lazima, tuna uwezo. Na ukweli ni kwamba hakuna wakati ambapo utasema sasa hivi ndio wakati nadhani polisi wetu wamejiandaa vizuri. Wakati wote 2007 kulitokea hali ya taharuki baada ya uchaguzi na kukawa na mambo mengi ambayo yalikuwa yanafanyika, but for some reason tuliweza kupata nafasi ya kutupatia polisi wetu kuwapatia nafasi ya kuonekana kwamba licha ya kuwa taharuki ilikuwa imetanda sana, lakini wali demonstrate kiwango fulani, waliweza kukabiliana na hali. So changamoto zipo siku zote. Unapoenda kwa vita kuna uwezekano either utashinda ama utashindwa, lakini sasa tuina mentality ya kushindwa. Sisi tunaenda mentality kwamba tunaenda kuchangia kurudisha hali kule Haiti. Iwapo wataenda na washindwa, watarudi nyumbani, tutasema tulijaribu na tukashindwa.
Asante sana Bwana Lulu. Kwako Bwana Msamali. Hili si jopo la kwanza kwa mfano kuweza kubuniwa kuangalia maslahi ya polisi na walinda usalama kwa ujumla katika nchi yetu. Kumekuwa na majopo kadhaa ambayo pia yaliweza kuundwa. Labda kidogo unadhani mambo mawili hapa, kipi ambacho kilimpelekea ama kilimshurutisha rais kuamua kwamba kuundwe tena jopo lingine kuangazia masuala ya maafisa hao usalama, na pia ningetamani sana utupatie historia zile jopo ambazo zimekuwepo na kama zilifanya kazi nzuri au la.
Kwa kweli hili ni jambo ambalo yeye alikuwa amelizungumzia katika wakati wake wa campaign, na akasema kwamba jambo la kwanza ambapo ikiwa atafaulu kuchukua urais basi ataangalia maslahi ya maafisa wa polisi. Na hii ni kufuatana na historia ambayo tumekuwa nayo kwa kipindi kirefu sana, ambapo jopo huundwa, inatoa mapendekezo, lakini yale mapendekezo hayatekelezwi. Na tukiangazia vile ndugu yangu hapa amesema, kuanzia mwaka 1997 tumekuwa kuna majopo kadha wa kadha, ambapo kumekuwa kuna ile jopo la Ramsley ambapo lilikuwa tu limebuniwa pia kuangalia maslahi ya polisi baada ya ule mgogoro tulikuwa nao baada ya uchaguzi, na ikaangaziwa kwamba ni polisi walihusika pakubwa, walichangia pakubwa kuweko na mgogoro huo. Na baada ya hiyo tukawa na jopo lingine ambalo lilikuwa linasimamiwa na Waki, the Waki Commission.
Ndio.
Pia hilo ni jopo ambalo lilikuwa pale kuangalia maslahi ya polisi. Likatoa mapendekezo yakawekwa kando, hayakutekelezwa. Tukafuatia hali kadhalika tukaja na jopo lile la Naikuni. Swala ni hilo tu, maslahi ya polisi. Baada ya swala la Naikuni tulikuwa kuna Waki Commission, hali kadhalika, na mpaka hivi sasa tumekuja tukawa na commission ya Maraga ambayo imesema pia ni kuangazia maslahi ya maafisa wa polisi, na tumeona mapendekezo yametolewa na rais kwa kauli moja amesema ya kwamba yale mapendekezo yatatekelezwa. Kwa hivyo jambo ambalo tunatarajia hivi sasa tofauti na yale majopo mengine, manake nikiangazia yale majopo mapendekezo ambayo yalikuwa yanatolewa na yale majopo ambayo yalikuwepo awali, mapendekezo yamekuwa ni haya tu ambayo tumeona yametolewa na jopo la Maraga. Na kumbuka, si majopo peke yake ambayo yalikuwa yanaangazia masuala ya polisi. National Police Service Commission pia ilijipa jukumu la kusema kwamba hivi sasa tuko na wadhifa na jambo ambalo tunafaa tuangazie ni maslahi ya maafisa wa polisi. Na kisha tukawa na IPOA moja kwa moja pia ikatengeneza tume yake na ikaangazia pia maslahi ya maafisa wa polisi na ikatoa mapendekezo kwa serikali. Lakini tatizo ambalo tunalo ni haya mapendekezo kutekelezwa. Hapo ndio pahali sisi ukwama. Na matumaini unasikia kwamba wamesema 40% kwa miaka mitatu. Haitoshi. Manake ukiangazia mshahara wa afisa wa polisi ule chini kabisa umpe sasa 13%, itakuwa ni kama ni tone ambalo halitaweza kubadilisha maslahi ya ule afisa wa polisi moja kwa moja. Kwa hivyo ni wazi ya kwamba mapendekezo yametolewa. Je, kuna nia ya serikali kutekeleza mapendekezo ambayo yametolewa? Hapo ndio tupo sasa.
Kidogo umetaja pale kwa 40% ambayo inafaa kutekelezwa kwa miaka mitatu. Na unasema kidogo ni kama tone tu, kama kutakuwa na tofauti mkubwa. Kwa tathmini yako, labda hiyo 40% ya nyongeza ingetekelezwa kwa muda gani?
Nafikiri hata ingekuwa 100%. Si 40. Maana ukiangazia afisa wa chini kabisa analipwa shilingi 21,000 constable. Ukimpa 13% utakuwa umempa kiasi gani, umemongezea kiasi gani? Alafu pia kuna ushuru ambao unatozwa. Ushuru umezidi. Kwa hivyo yule afisa atakuwa tu pale pale ambapo tulimwacha. Na nafikiri nia ilikuwa ni kuhakikisha tunaboresha maisha ya maafisa wa polisi, tunaangazia maslahi yao na kwamba wao wanaishi vizuri ili waweze kututumikia sisi kama jamii. Na ikiwa hatutaweza kufanya vile, basi hali ya maafisa wa polisi, magereza, huduma ya vijana kwa taifa itabaki ni ile duni, ambapo sasa hata ile heshima kutoka kwa mwananchi wa kawaida haitakuwepo. Kwa hivyo ni mengi yanafaa kufanywa ili kuboresha maisha ya maafisa wa polisi, na pia tukiboresha maisha yao tutaboresha utendaji kazi wao. Na hilo ndilo jambo ambalo sisi kama taifa tunalihitaji.
Bwana Lulu, Msamali amesema kwamba tatizo ni utekelezaji wa yale mapendekezo ya majopo hata yaliyotangulia hapo mwanzoni. Kwa kweli unaona kuna mwanga kwamba wakati huu yale mapendekezo yatatekelezwa na haraka iwezekanavyo labda?
Tatizo ambalo tuko nalo Kenya, alivyosema Bwana George, ni hilo kwamba hatunakosa nia njema kwa kuweza kutekeleza mapendekezo. So unakuta rasilimali nyingi zinawekezwa sio tu hata kwa hiyo ya usalama. Mimi kuna ripoti ambayo nimetamani siku moja nisikie imetekelezwa, ilikuwa inaitwa TJRC ambayo ilitengezwa ripoti nzuri na aliyekuwa kiongozi Bethwel Kiplagat wakati huo marehemu akasema hii ikiweza kuidhinishwa Kenya matatizo yetu itafika mwisho. Lakini ilipofika pale kwa sababu ilikuwa inahusu viongozi fulani ikawekwa kwa shelf, haikuwa ifanyika jambo lolote. So tunakosa nia njema. Lakini iwapo hii itatekelezwa au sio, nataka kusema labda kwa sababu serikali iliyoko wakati ambapo wanafanya campaign. Nakumbuka, to be specific, naibu wa rais wakati huo akizungumza akisema tumejua shida ya polisi wetu, tutahakikisha tunawalipa vizuri na tuwapatie uniform zenye hazina mifuko ya kuchukua hongo so that wakuwa wameshiba. So labda wakati huu huenda tuna nia njema, na wakitaka serikali ikitaka kuidhinisha hii italiidhinisha na litafanyika kwa wepesi sana, kwa sababu kuanzia kwa ofisi kuu kuna nia na maaskari walishawekwa kwa ile mood ya kupokea nyongeza ya mshahara. So alivyosema hii 40% sio kitu ya kuweka kwa awamu 3. Hii ni kitu ingewekwa kwa mpigo. Lakini sasa utapata sasa inaitwa SRC wataanza kuja na ukarabati. Waseme sijui sasa itakuwa pesa mingi, sijui kumeenda namna gani, lakini iwapo tunataka Kenya move forward, kwa sababu kitu cha kwanza ambacho kitaleta heshima kwa walinda usalama wetu ni kuhakikisha kwamba hata mshahara wao unawaheshimisha. Lakini wakati ambapo utaambia mtu unamuongeza mshahara alafu umuongeze 1200, then 1200 tena ikato iende kulipa ushuru. So huyu mtu umempatia kwa mkono huu ukamnyang'anya mkono mwingine, ataendelea kusimamisha matatu kwa barabara na kuchukua shilingi 50, kwa sababu hiyo tu ndio pesa ambayo anaweza kusurvive nayo. So serikali ijitoe na ikuwe seriously committed, na naibu wa rais aendeleze ile agenda yake kuhakikisha kwamba polisi na maafisa wa usalama, sio polisi pekee but vitengo vyote vya usalama, hawa watu ambao wanatupatia heshima kama nchi waweze kulindwa na kuhifadhiwa vizuri.
Rais alipatia jukumu hilo SRC, tunasubiria kuona basi itachukua muda gani labda kwa ile kutekelezwa, maana yake aliwataja akasema sasa kazi kwenu. Naam, mtazamaji wa KBC Channel 1 na msikilizaji wa Radio Taifa, tunaangazia masuala ya mageuzi katika idara ya usalama hapa nchini Kenya, na unapata matangazo haya moja kwa moja kupitia Radio Taifa na vile vile Channel 1. Maswali yako kama yapo basi yaweke katika mitandao yetu ya kijamii. Turejea hapa studioni bwana Msamali. Najua wewe ni mtaalamu wa masuala ya haya ya usalama katika nchi ya Kenya kwa miaka mingi sana, na pia umefunza katika taasisi mbalimbali. Kabla ya katiba mwaka 2010 kupitishwa, kulikuwa na Kenya Police Force. Sawa? Na baadaye ikawa sasa National Police Service, ambayo na maana kwamba jina lilibadilika labda kubadilishwa kwa polisi na kuwa huduma kwa taifa. Sasa National Police Service, huduma kwa taifa, kumesaidia kuimarisha huduma zake kwa wananchi. Manake polisi wanafaa kufikia mwananchi, huduma kwa wote, huduma kwa taifa. Kuna mabadiliko yoyote ama ni jina tu lilibadilika?
Tuanze kwanza ni sababu gani kulikuwa kuna umuhimu wa kubadilisha lile jina kutoka kwa Police Service kwa Police Force iwe Police Service. Ni kwamba polisi walionekana kuhusika pakubwa na migogoro ambayo tulishuhudia mwaka wa 2007, 2007, 2008, ambapo tulikuwa na vitengo kadha wa kadha katika polisi. Tulikuwa kuna kitengo ambacho tulikuwa na kita administration police, ambao wao moja kwa moja walikuwa hawajibiki kwa commission of police wakati ule. Manake wao walikuwa moja kwa moja wanawajibika na provincial administration wakati ule. Na tukawa na Kenya Police Force ambao wao walikuwa chini ya Commissioner of Police. Na wakati misukosuko ilitokea, kukawa na lawama, the Kriegler Commission ikasema ya kwamba kuna vitengo katika huduma ya polisi ambavyo vilihusishwa na utovu wa nidhamu wakati wa upigaji kura mwaka huo. Na ndipo wao ndio walichangia pakubwa mizozo ambayo tulishuhudia, na ikawa basi lazima huduma ya polisi iwe ni moja na wote wawajibike kwa mtu mmoja, tulete ule uwajibikaji. Basi ndio 2010 tukasema kwamba tumevunjilia mbali, tumeondoa ile AP na tukasema tuwaunganishe AP na hawa Kenya Police Service na tubadilishe jina iwe ni huduma, si force tena. Maana ile jina ya force ilikuwa kwa kikoloni, na force ni wewe uko pale si kutoa huduma bali ni kuhakikisha kitu fulani kinafanyika. Na tukasema tuipe sura tuwape polisi sura ya kibinadamu, na kwamba mwananchi ajue kwamba afisa wa polisi yuko pale kumhudumia na hayuko pale kumgandamiza yeye. Na tukaja na mapendekezo mengi tu pale ndani, tukasema kwamba tuwe na inspector generali mmoja na tuwe na manaibu wawili ambao wote watakuwa kwa mmoja wa Kenya Police Service, yule mwingine atakuwa kwa Administration Police. Kazi tofauti, majukumu yao yakawa ni tofauti, na tukasema kwamba hawa watawajibika moja kwa moja kwa huduma ya polisi, Kenya National Police Service Commission. Na kuteuliwa kwao kutafuata mkondo fulani ambao watu itatolewa kwamba nafasi ziko, watu tume barua za kuomba kazi, ifanywe ile interviews, kisha tuchague mtu na tumweke pale. Na hayo yote yalifanywa manake tulikuwa nataka kusema kwamba tuwe na huduma ya polisi ambayo itahudumia mwananchi na kutoa huduma ambazo zinahitajika. Na swali ambalo umeniuliza, je, kuna mabadiliko? Nafikiri mabadiliko hayajaonekana, na ndio manake sasa rais aliona ateue jopo la kusema kwamba bado hatujafika pale tulikuwa tunahitaji. Ndugu yangu hapa amezungumzia kuchukua zile 50, bado zinachukuliwa barabarani. Ukiingia katika kituo cha polisi kupeleka ripoti, ni lazima utatoa shilingi 200 ndio yule afisa ambaye yuko pale kwa desk akuandikie OB. Ukihitaji abstract kwamba umepoteza kitambulisho, umeibiwa chochote, bado utapata kwamba kuna changamoto nyingi zaidi katika vituo vya polisi. Na nafikiri hili ndilo lilikuwa na msukumo wa Rais Daktari William Ruto kuchagua hili jopo ili tuone kama tunaweza tatua haya matatizo. Manake tulibadilisha jina tu, lakini mambo ambayo yalifanya tubadilishe jina bado yapo. Na wananchi bado hawajapata huduma ambayo wanahitaji kutoka kwa maafisa wa polisi. Na nafikiri hili jopo lilikuwa litatue baadhi ya matatizo ambayo tunayazungumzia hivi sasa, tuone kamba tutabadilisha sura ya polisi ili iwe ni sura ambayo itakubalika na mwananchi.
Mianya iko wapi kwamba tuko pale, jina limebadilika lakini huduma hazijabadilika? Mianya iko wapi aswa?
Mianya ipo, na utapata kwamba pindi tu baada ya 2010, 2014 wabunge wakarudi bungeni na kusema kwamba zile security bills, uwezo wa kumchagua inspector generali utolewe kwa National Police Service Commission, ukarudishwa chini ya mikono ya rais. Na utapata kwamba Bwana Kavuludi alijaribu kufanya ile inaitwa police vetting, ikawa ni vigumu. Manake alipata pingamizi nyingi, na baadhi ya ile vetting ilikuwa inafanywa ili kuondoa zile mbegu mbaya kutoka katika huduma ili tuweze kuboresha huduma kwa wananchi, ikawa ni vigumu. Na nafikiri hiyo ndio mianya ambayo imezuia kubadilisha sura ya polisi, kuingiliwa ndani ya masuala ya polisi na wanasiasa. Itakuwa ni vigumu sana kutekeleza haya mapendekezo, hata haya saizi, ikiwa hatutaondoa siasa kutoka kwa huduma ya polisi. Hapo ndio tatizo lipo.
Okay. Bwana Lulu tayari mmegusia nyote kwa pamoja, amegusia swala la ufisadi. Na mara si moja utafiti umefanywa na mashirika hata ya kimataifa kama vile Transparency International kuhusiana na masuala ya ufisadi hapa nchini Kenya, na imetoa ripoti, na mara nyingi utakuta kwamba idara ya polisi inakuwa kwamba inaongoza. Na pia tumeona hili jopo katika ile ripoti yake, masuala ya ufisadi pia yamejitokeza. Sijui inadhihirisha nini haswa, tatizo liko wapi kwamba ufisadi unazidi kukithiri katika sekta hii? Na ukumbuke pia majuma machache yaliyopita ama siku chache zilizopita, mkuu wa utumishi wa umma pia aliagiza kuondolewa kwa muda kwa maafisa 67 kwa tuhuma pia za ufisadi, na ikawa kwamba wapokee mshahara nusu wakati ambapo uchunguzi unaendelea. Ina maana kwamba ufisadi upo. Tatizo liko wapi kwamba ufisadi unazidi kukithiri katika sekta hii?
Kwanza nichangie tu kidogo alilosema ndugu George.
Kwa ufupi sana.
Wakati ambapo unabadilisha kikosi kutoka kwa force to service, na hawa watu wasifanywe kile kitu kinaitwa civic education, na huyo mtu haujamsaidia. Ni kana kwamba mimi uniambie sasa toa suti uvae t-shirt, lakini unajua mwili ni ule ule, akili ni zile zile. So labda nitavaa t-shirt, na kwa sababu napenda kufunga tai nijikute nimechukua tai nimeweka juu ya t-shirt, kwa sababu kuna vitu ambavyo inafaa mtu ajaribu kuelimishwa jinsi ya kuendeleza mawazo yako na maisha yako moving forward. So mahali ambapo kumekuwa na mwanya katika service delivery ya polisi walibaki kuwa ni wale, kila kitu kilibaki kuwa ni kile, lakini wakabadilishiwa jina, maybe by extension wakabadilishiwa hata uniform. Alright, lakini sasa hata ukibadilisha uniform na tabia hazijabadilika, mimi nadhani kulikuwa na need ya kufanya empowerment. Polisi waanze kujielewa kwamba tumetoka pale kwa force, tumekuja kwa service. Kwa sababu leo hii maafisa wa polisi wengi Kenya hawajui kwamba ndio umshike mtu inafaa ukuwe na warrant of arrest. Yeye anakupata barabarani na anakuambia uko umeshikwa, unaenda ndani. Na ukimuuliza swali, wewe tembee jioni barabara ya inaitwa Rodangala usiku, utapata polisi anasimamisha, anamwambia leta passport. Hawezi na passport, haya wewe umeshikwa. Niko na kitambulisho, tumekuitisha passport. So you realize that lack of that awareness imefanya polisi inakani kana kwamba inachanganyikiwa in one way or the other. So there is a need for capacity building and civic education. Lakini jambo la ufisadi limeletwa kwa sababu ya njaa. Hao maafisa wetu wako na njaa. Mtu anapata shilingi 20,000, amecommit shilingi 15,000 kwa loan, alafu ako na vitu inafaa akuwa anafanya kwa kila siku ambayo mahitaji hata mimi peke yangu shilingi 5,000 haziwezi kanitosha kukimu mahitaji yangu kwa mwezi, hata wiki moja haitatosha. Kwa hivyo kuna need ya polisi wetu na maafisa wote, sio polisi peke yao. Kuna need ya vitengo vyote vya usalama kuweza kuzingatiwa, kupewa mazingira mazuri ya kuishi, kupewa mishahara mizuri, alafu nimesema wapewe capacity building, wajielewe kwamba unapopewa ama unapotunukiwa nafasi ya kuwa kwa kitengo cha usalama, haujapewa nafasi ya kunyang'anya, umepewa nafasi ya kuweza kuchangia usalama wa nchi yako.
Sasa kabla tuendelee upande wa televisheni, chukue pumziko fupi kabisa, sekunde chache tupate matangazo ya biashara, kisha tutarejea. Lakini katika redio tunaweza kuendelea na mjadala. Swali langu kuhusiana na kukithiri kwa ufisadi katika sekta hii ya
The Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry, State Department for Industry invites you to the Kenya Industrial Conference 2023 at the University of Nairobi grounds from 20th to 22nd November 2023. The occasion will bring together over 100 participants drawn from academia, industry, policymakers and development partners from national, regional and international levels to discuss how to boost the country's industrialization. This year's theme will be Acceleration of Africa Continental Free Trade Area Implementation.
Guess what? It's your good friend and loyal partner, Claudio. He's the one who took it.
Olga mentioned to me that he was also involved in the murder of Carolina.
Olga?
I got nothing to do with those drugs!
Transporting it. So the charges will be against you.
Where are they? They shouldn't get away from us. You two check over there. You
Yes,
come
sir.
with me. Hurry up!
I've just recalled everything. Now I'm going to do what I should have done long before. I am going to tell the truth. But getting cold feet?
No. Certainly not.
KBC Channel 1 magazine programs strive to disseminate news and information.
Welcome to Happening in the World of Entertainment
and achievements of individuals navigating through life.
Be part of the intelligent conversation. Upper KBC Channel 1.
Related to the interest of Kenyan public on various subjects of national importance.
Wasigaribu tujifunze.
Keeping you up to date with the latest tech news,
Challenges and remarkable stories of individuals with disabilities.
Our magazine
pindi tunapowasha vifaa vyetu, tunapata fursa ya kutangamana na wasikilizaji wetu.
Karibu sana thĩinĩ wa tabarĩra ya Rwiga.
Tunapeperusha utangazaji uliobobea katika habari,
ni ũndũ wa macio na mangĩ maingĩ,
burudani,
ni harĩa tũkoragwo tũkĩigua nyĩmbo mwaki nyĩmbo hoda,
na hamasisho la kiroho. Usiachwe nyuma. Jiunge nasi kwa safari ya kufana katika 99.5 FM. Soro FM.
Wewe ni mwananchi, ni haki yako. Na hili ni jambo ambalo sisi wananchi pia tumelikubali. Yule dereva wa matatu yeye anajua tu 50 lazima niziweke.
Na nisipotoa
basi itakuwa shida. Kwa hivyo tumeifanya kuwa ni tamaduni. Na sisi wa Kenya pia tumekubali. Mimi nikienda katika kituo cha polisi siendi kusimama na kusema nataka huduma. Utanifanyaje bwana ili niweze kusaidika? Unaona? Na si katika huduma ya polisi peke yake. Katika nyanja zote ukiingia serikalini huwezi pata huduma ambayo unapewa kwamba umepewa kwa sababu ni haki yako kama mwananchi. Kwa hivyo polisi tunazungumzia, manake sisi huwa na uhusiano mwingi, mwananchi wa kawaida huwa na interaction mingi sana na maafisa wa polisi. Lakini ukienda katika sehemu zingine za serikali pia hali ni hii. Kwa hivyo ni lazima tuwe na nia kutoka kwa serikali kuu ya kukabiliana na tatizo la ufisadi katika huduma za serikali.
Pale katika political will, kabla nimpishe bwana David Alulu, umesema kwamba hamna nia sana, na pia jopo ambalo liliweza kuwasilisha ripoti yake kupitia bwana Maraga pia lilitaja kwamba sekta hii ya usalama imeingiliwa sana na siasa na wanasiasa. Kwa nini imekuwa hivyo? Kama unasema kwamba hamna nia labda kutoka kule juu, ndio najua kuna uongozi kuseparate na siasa ni tofauti, ni ngumu kidogo. Mbona basi inakuwa kwamba siasa kila wakati zimeingilia pale, wanasiasa wameingilia sekta hii ya usalama?
Nafikiri kwa sababu za kujitakia wao wenyewe binafsi, na ningependa kutoa mfano tofauti na mataifa jirani. Sababu gani inakuwa ni kwamba wanasiasa katika taifa la Kenya wana nia sana ya kuweza kuwa wanaweza ingia katika huduma ya polisi. Tofauti na Uganda, manake kule Uganda Museveni yuko na UPDF ambao wako chini yake. Chochote anachotaka akisema kinafanywa. Ukienda kule taifa kama vile Rwanda hali kadhalika, utapata bwana Kagame anatumia jeshi zaidi katika masuala yake ya ndani ya siasa na kadhalika. Hapa Kenya tofauti, tuko na jeshi ambalo halijihusishi kwa vyovyote na siasa. Kwa hivyo inakuwa ni kwamba ni lazima watumie huduma ya polisi. Na ndio maana 2014 walienda bungeni na kusema hatuwezi kuwa na huduma ya polisi ambaye haiwajibiki kwa serikali kuu. Waona tatizo hilo sasa? Tukabadilisha katiba na kusema kwamba huyu Inspector General ni lazima ateuliwe na rais. Mdogo wake ni lazima ateuliwe na rais. Kwa hivyo bwana Kome hivi sasa akielezwa chochote na rais atafanya.
Labda kidogo kama angekuwa anateuliwa kule ingekuwa tofauti.
Mwanasiasa yote unapata kwamba unapata mwanasiasa kama vile David Sudi, Oscar Sudi, niliona kule Eldoret hivi juzi, anakagua gwaridi ya maafisa wa polisi. Kivipi? Alitoa uwezo huo wapi? Nafikiri hii ni tatizo kubwa Dora. Na tusipoliangazia tutatokomea. Manake inakuwa vipi kwamba wewe ni raia tu, ukiwa mbunge imaanisha kwamba unapewa ule uwezo wa kuweza kukagua gwaridi la maafisa wa polisi. Na hapa ndipo wanasiasa, manake ukienda mahali popote unasikia waziri anaenda moja kwa moja na kutangaza mbele ya umma ya kwamba bwana OCS nimekufuta kazi. Uwezo aliutoa wapi? Na hili ndilo tatizo tulikuwa nalo 2007. Na ndio manake ile Kriegler Commission ikasema kwamba ni lazima tuwe na huduma ya polisi ambayo itakuwa huru. 2010 tukaweka kwa katiba. 14 tukarudisha mali tulikuwako. Tusipotoka hapo, nafikiri mambo yatazidi kuwa vile vile ambavyo tunaona hivi.
Kwa hivyo Inspector General wa polisi angekuwa ateuliwa na rais, unaona kama kungekuwa na tofauti kidogo.
Kulikuwa kuna tofauti. Angazia Inspector General bwana Kimaiyo ambaye aliteuliwa na huduma na ile commission, utendaji kazi wake alipewa ile security office yake kwamba huwezi vutwa na rais. Lakini bwana Kome saizi daktari akiamka asubuhi aseme huyu jamaa is out of favor, toka. Kwamba haezi tekeleza wajibu wake kulingana na katiba. Ni lazima akifanya kitu anaangalia nyuma. Je, ninaonwa? Ama nitaambiwa vipi kutoka ikulu? Hilo ndio tatizo.
Bwana Lulu, nataka nikulete kwa swali tofauti. Najua unataka kuchangia pale, lakini muda unanisukuma sana. Kando na lalama kwamba idara ya usalama inaingiliwa sana na siasa na wanasiasa, jopo hili pia limeashiria kwamba tatizo kubwa pia ni ufadhili kwa idara ya usalama ama vyombo vya usalama, kwamba hakuna ufadhili wa kutosha. Kwa hivyo kidogo inakuwa pia vigumu labda kwao kutekeleza majukumu yao ipasavyo. Sijui ungesemaje kuhusu hilo?
Unajua, siku zote ambapo unatuma mtu kazini na umnyime vifaa ambavyo anahitaji vya kufanyia kazi, ni kama umemfunga mikono. So ukosefu wa ufadhili, tumie huo mfano wa polisi. Kesi ambayo nadhani awamu ya kwanza ya Rais Kenyatta Uhuru alipokuja, tuliona magari zikiwepo kwa wingi sana kwa vituo na mambo kama yale, lakini baadaye tumeanza kurudi kwa ile system ya kitambo. Ukienda kwa polisi unaambiwa hatuna mafuta, fanya mpangilio wa kufanya hizo. Utapata hii ni moja wapo ya vitu hata vinachangia ufisadi, kwa sababu wakati ambapo sina rasilimali na kuna mtu hapa ambaye ako willing kutushika mkono, sasa itabidi tumempatia favor. Atupatie yule anayehitaji hiyo favor, lakini yule ambaye ametupatia ama ametupiga jeki kidogo tunampatia favor. So vitengo vya usalama, na pale awali nilisema sio polisi peke yake. Tuko na KWS, KFS, tuko na NYS. Hizi vitengo vyote vinahitaji kupewa ufadhili wa kutosha, lakini utakuta kwamba hata wakati bunge inafanya budgeting, rasilimali zinazowekezwa kwa upande wa usalama ni duni sana. Pale awali nilisema labda serikali hii ina nia njema, kwa sababu Rais Ruto alipochukua awamu ya uongozi alipatia autonomy police service ya kuwa independent financially na kuwapatia nadhani wako na CEO sasa anaye manage resources za police. So labda ni njia moja ya kuweza ku up the game so that polisi wakuwe na wanaandaa budget yao na wakuwe facilitated na bunge directly so that waweze kutimiliza wajibu wao. So shida ambayo imekuwepo ni kukosa ufadhili, na zile resources kidogo ambazo zimekuwa allocated pia zinakuwa abused, kwa sababu who is accountable. So labda kwa sababu serikali imeweka ile mbinu ya kuwa accountable, maybe sasa we are moving forward from a level where tutakuwa tuna complain tu, lakini tuweze kuwajibike ile kidogo ambayo tumepata, tuwajibike, maswali yaulizwe, audit zifanywe, tujue kwamba hizi pesa zilikuwa za housing zimesaidia kiwango kipi. Sababu wakati Matiang'i alileta program ya kufadhili housing ya polisi, nadhani alikuwa anapewa 8,000 or something. Kidogo wakatoka kwa police station, muda sio mrefu wote tena wakarudi kwa polisi, lakini hatujaambiwa hizi pesa za housing zilichukuliwa ama bado zipo. So ni jambo ambalo linahitaji a little bit more of accountability, alafu pia na uwazi jinsi ambayo rasilimali zinaweza kutumika. Lakini kwa sasa nadhani bado tunategea tusikie nini ambacho kipo kwa mawazo ya serikali, kwa sababu ni serikali itatupatia mwongozo kwa kuzingatia kwamba rasilimali zimewekwa na zile rasilimali pia zinafuatiliwa kujua ama kuhakikisha kwamba zinakuwa accounted for.
Okay. Kabla niangalie maswali mawili matatu kupitia mitandao yetu ya kijamii, nirejee kwa Bwana Msamali. Na mara kwa mara idara ya usalama imechukuliwa kama ya wale ambao walifeli mtihani wa kidato cha 4, na hata wakati ambapo labda wanatangaza kwamba kuna kule kuchukuliwa kwa wale wakwenda pale kutenda ile shughuli ama kwenda training, utasikia pale vigezo ambavyo vimewekwa, mapendekezo ambayo yametolewa na ripoti ambayo iko katika mapendekezo ya jopo hili. Kidogo unaona itabadilisha dhana na kuboresha utendakazi sekta ya usalama? Na tujue pia kama ni wenye walifeli. Mimi
sikufeli. Nilikuwa huko. Nafikiri tumejaribu. Manake si mara ya kwanza imesemekana kwamba zile grades za kuingia katika huduma ya polisi ziongezwe, na nakumbuka ilifika wakati tukasema kwamba ukikosa ile alama ya C+ huwezi ajiriwa kama afisa wa polisi. Kidogo tukarudi nyuma tukasema na hawa jamaa wa C+ wakiingia hapa hawakai, anafika kidogo anaanza ongezea masomo, baada ya miaka 2 3 4 anaondoka, anaaga huduma. Baadhi yao ni kina mimi sasa. Tulifika na tukaondoka. Na ukweli ni kwamba ikiwa mazingira ya polisi yataboreshwa, sioni ni sababu gani tusivutie watu ambao wana masomo. Maana kazi ya polisi si rahisi. Ukifanya upelelezi, unampeleleza daktari, unampeleleza wakili, unampeleleza mwanasiasa, maana unapeleleza kesi ambazo zinahusiana na watu wa hadhi ya juu katika jamii. Na ikiwa wewe masomo yako ni duni, basi hata upelelezi wako utakuwa ni mbaya. Na si vigumu, maana hata hivi sasa kuna watu ambao wanahudumu kwa polisi bado wapo ambao ni wasomi, lakini ile hali, mazingira ambao wao wanafanyia kazi, masilahi yao ndio mabovu. Na ikiwa tutaboresha masilahi ya huduma ya polisi, basi utapata kwamba hata hiyo kiwango cha C- hakitatosha. Manake tutaleta watu ambao ni wa hadhi ya juu kimasomo katika huduma ya polisi, na hili ni jambo ambalo litaboresha huduma kwa mwananchi. Manake ukiingia kama kitengo cha DCI, hivi sasa tuko na ile lab kule Kiambu Road, haifanyi kazi, manake haina wale human resource ambao wana elimu ya kutosha na hadhi ya kutosha kuweza kuhudumu katika hiyo laboratory. Na kwamba ingawa tumesema tufikishe C, na wale wako ndani ambao wako na masomo kiasi hicho wanalalamika, wanataka kuhaga huduma, basi tutakuwa tunafanya kazi ya bure. Kwa hivyo kwanza tuboreshe masilahi, tuwape mshahara ya kutosha, tuboreshe mazingira ambayo maafisa wa polisi wanafanyia kazi, basi turudi katika sasa kuajiri watu ambao watakuja na kuboresha huduma kwa mwananchi. Lakini hali iliyoko hivi sasa, hata tukisema wataingia na wanaondoka, wanaingia na kuondoka, ni vigumu.
Okay. Asante sana Bwana Msamali. Mtazamaji na msikilizaji, tunaelekea kutamatisha, lakini tunaangazia masuala ya mageuzi katika idara ya usalama hapa nchini Kenya. Na studioni hapa na watu ambao wanafahamu masuala hayo, Bwana George Msamali, mchanganuzi wa masuala ya usalama, na vile vile Bwana David Alulu ambaye pia ni mchanganuzi wa masuala ya kisiasa. Na kwa sababu nimekutaja Bwana Alulu, baadhi ya haya mapendekezo yatahitaji ushirikiano na bunge. Na wewe ni mchanganuzi wa masuala ya kisiasa, baadhi ya mapendekezo yanahitaji bunge liingilie kati na mambo kama haya. Je, unadhani jukumu la bunge ni lipi katika kusaidia kuhakikisha kwamba imelainisha idara ya polisi,
ili isionekana kwamba ni jambo tu ya kisiasa? Lazima bunge lihusishe kwa kuhakikisha kwamba imefanywa kwa mswada, na huu mswada uidhinishwe, alafu kwa Senate na President. Baadaye haitakuwa ni kwamba atakayakuja baadaye ataanza kufikiria sijui ni twist hivi, sijui ni fanyaje. So kuna umuhimu wa kuweka ama kuhusisha bunge. Sheria ya bunge ni kuhakikisha kwamba miswada zote ambazo zinafaa kuidhinishwa kisheria zimeweza kujadiliwa, alafu ku avoid ile kesi ambayo tumekuwa tukisikia public participation. Watu watasema hatukuhusishwa, hata hatukuambiwa anything. So there is a very clear need ya kuhusisha bunge ijadili, public participation. Na mimi sasa ningewaomba wabunge, mswada kama ukija, hata wao waweke input yao, wakubali kwamba kama alivyosema Bwana George, unaona wakati ambapo kikosi kina mazingira mazuri ya kikazi, kwamba hata graduate anaenda kwa polisi akaomba kazi na akaifanya, akisikia kwamba anajivunia kazi anayoifanya kwa sababu imepewa heshima, imepewa standard, na mtu ambaye yuko pale anahisi kuheshimika. Kuna mataifa ukienda ukutana na polisi, wewe unaheshimu yule polisi, lakini hapa Kenya unaona mtu akiona polisi, hata kama ni polisi wa kiwango cha juu, anamwangalia kama hii mtu hajasoma, huyu mtu hana akili. Unaona kuna jinsi ambavyo watu wameangalia polisi. So bunge lipatie kitengo cha polisi na vitengo vyote vya usalama wachangie mswada ambao utaweka vitengo hivi kuwa na hadhi, vitengo hivi onekane kwamba it is a professional institution like any other. Ati mimi naweza ajiriwa kwa polisi na yule ambaye ameajiriwa kwa Ministry of Information, tukipatana tunaheshimika na kila mtu ako vizuri. Kwa hivyo bunge ina umuhimu wa kuhakikisha kwamba maoni ya wananchi pia yamekuwa incorporated into this. Alafu mwisho wa siku, kwa sababu najua wakati ambapo Judge Maraga amekuwa akikusanya views sana ame base sana kwa vitengo vya usalama kusikiza maoni yao. Hasa it is about time mwananchi wa kawaida sasa ambaye sio polisi, ambaye amekutana kwa njia moja au nyingine, amepatana polisi mahali, polisi akamharas na hizo mambo yote, asikizwe atoe maoni yake, alafu yote iko incorporated. Alafu labda huu mswada wa civic education utazungumziwa, alafu ikishawekwa sheria waseme every after 1 year probably tutakuwa na seminars na trainings ambazo zitawasaidia maafisa wetu kuweza kukumbushwa kwamba hivi ndivyo mnafaa kufanya kazi, hivi ndivyo mnahusikana na wananchi, hivi ndivyo mtaweza kujipitisha ukijipata kwa hali kama hii, what are you supposed to do, vitu kama zile. Kwetu yale mafunzo wanapata kwenye zile vyuo vya kama Kiganjo na kwingine, hiyo ndio wana base mtu anapoingia kikosi hadi atakapoenda retire. Kwa na a better way ya kuhakikisha kwamba watu ambao wanafanya kazi kwa vitengo vya usalama wana mahusiano mazuri na wananchi, na hiyo itafanyika tu iwapo bunge litaweka mjadala na mswada ambao unahusisha watu wote na taifa na umma. Yes.
Asante sana. Kwa ufupi sana Bwana Msamali, jukumu la bunge katika kulainisha idara ya polisi, kwa sekunde chache kabla nichukue labda jumbe mbili kwa njia ya mtandao alafu tuweze kukamilisha kwa sababu ya muda.
Ni kama vile ndugu yangu David amesema, ni kwamba ni lazima hili jambo lipitie bunge na liidhinishwe na bunge. Maana lisipoidhinishwa basi mapendekezo yote ama ikiwa mapendekezo yote yatakuwa ni kinyume na sheria, na mtu anaweza enda kotini na apinge na kusema kwamba haiwezekani. Waona? Maana una pendekezo moja pale ambalo limeleta tumbo joto sana kwa maafisa wa polisi kwamba huwezi hudumu katika kituo kimoja kwa zaidi ya miaka 3. Hili ni pendekezo ambalo ni lazima lijadiliwe vizuri na tuone manufaa yake ama upungufu wake utakuwa vipi kwa maafisa wa polisi moja kwa moja. Kwa hivyo ni lazima bunge liidhinishe haya mapendekezo ili yaweze kutekelezwa yakiwa ni sheria. Bure wananchi watakubaliana nayo, na kuna wale ambao watayapinga. Kama kawaida Senator Mtata ataenda kotini na tunajua matokeo vile huwa. Kwa hivyo ni lazima tufanye hili jambo liwe sheria ili liweze kutekelezwa bila pingamizi kutoka kwa mwananchi yoyote ama kutoka kwa taasisi yoyote.
Nataka nikuelekezee pia ili swali. Msemaji wa huduma ya polisi Daktari Rezila Onyango anasema kuwa warrant of arrest haiwezi hitajika wakati uhalifu unaendelea. Wakati polisi wanafanya doria si lazima wawe na warrant of arrest. Sema kwamba warrant of arrest ufanya kazi.
Ni kweli, manake kuna katika sheria kuna zile tunaita cognizable offenses. Makosa ambayo unafanya hata mwananchi wa kawaida akiona anasema huyu ni mhalifu. Hilo hauhitaji warrant of arrest kukamata mtu. Hiyo iko katika penal code na all penal offenses chapter 63 laws of Kenya. Afisa wa polisi hahitaji warrant. Lakini utahitaji warrant tu ikiwa ni mtu ambaye anatakana kushikwa na ametoroka, unaenda kotini unapewa warrant ya kumkamata. Lakini wakati mtu anatekeleza uhalifu ambao hata wewe mwananchi wa kawaida, manake tuko na zile tunaita powers of arrest ya mwananchi wa kawaida, kwamba mimi umeniona na kuibia hii simu, una uwezo, sheria na kuruhusu kunikamata na kunipeleka katika kituo cha polisi. Ukifika kituo cha polisi, afisa wa polisi anafanya ile inaitwa rearrest. Manake si lazima uwe na warrant of arrest kumkamata mtu ambaye anatekeleza uhalifu ambao wewe moja kwa moja unautizama na kuona kwamba huyu mtu amevunja sheria. Hiyo ni kweli kabisa.
Kwa hivyo wakati polisi anashika doria na hahitaji warrant of arrest jamaa.
Hahitaji. Manake nimesema ikiwa utafanya ile tunaita cognizable offenses, hahitaji warrant of arrest kukamata. Na
amethibitisha by the Dr. Rezila anasema kwamba ni kweli cognizable offenses ambazo umetaja hazihitaji warrant of arrest.
Hazihitaji warrant of arrest.
Anasikiliza na vile vile anatizama mjadala mzima huu kuhusiana na masuala ya usalama, na anapendezwa mnavyoeleza masuala ya usalama hapa nchini. Asante sana msemaji wa polisi Dr. Rezila Onyango. Nataka tukamilishe na swali moja tu hapa kutoka kwa wananchi ama maswali mawili. Mtazamaji wa channel 1 na KBC Radio Taifa, msikilizaji, kwa sekunde chache tu itakuwa vizuri nipate mawili matatu. Kwa mfano katika mtandao wa Facebook, Lanchevin Moyo anasema kwanza Doramanya waongee waangalie Kenya tuko na usalama wa kutosha kweli kama Boni na Somalia, waongeze KDF Air Force sio polisi. Sijui kama umemwelewa. Alafu kuna huyu anasema swali, je, mageuzi haya yana faida gani kwa mwananchi asiye na hela? Na swali la pili, je, mageuzi haya yatapunguza ufisadi katika idara hii ya usalama? tunasemaje kuhusiana na maswali mawili matatu haya sana hapo kwa kupunguza ufisadi na kuleta mabadiliko katika idara ya usalama?
Kwa kweli hili jambo la ufisadi ni kidonda sugu, lakini lazima ukumbuke ya kwamba pia sisi wananchi tunachangia ufisadi katika huduma. Manake wewe umeshikwa na afisa wa trafiki, kubali kwenda kotini. Wewe ndio manake maafisa wa polisi huajiriwa kutoka kwa sisi. Na kwa hivyo ukimwona afisa wa polisi umemwona mimi, umeniona mimi. Na ikiwa sisi wananchi tutakataa hili swala la ufisadi, moja kwa moja hakuna afisa wa polisi ambaye atachukua rushwa. Sisi ndio tunawa encourage, sisi ndio tunawapa. Ukienda katika kituo cha polisi unataka uongane ili uangaliliwe. Polisi ni manake hata polisi ana mahitaji yake. Kwa hivyo ukimpa wewe atapokea. Haezi kataa. Na nafikiri hilo ndio jambo ambalo lazima pia tuzingatie sisi kama jamii. Lazima tuseme kwamba tutapigana na ufisadi. Na nakumbuka 2002 baada ya kuapishwa Rais Mwai Kibaki, wananchi wale wenyewe walianza kuwakamata polisi barabarani na kuwapeleka katika vituo. Ghafla binvu mambo yakabadilika, tukarudi pale mahali tulipokuwa. Kwa hivyo nafikiri ufisadi ni lazima tupigane nao sisi wote kama jamii, kama taifa. Si kwamba tulenge polisi peke yake, manake taasisi nyingi tu za serikali zina hili tatizo la ufisadi. Tofauti ni kwamba polisi wanakuwa na ile into contact na wananchi mara nyingi zaidi kuliko taasisi zingine zozote. Na ndio tatizo liko pale.
Okay. Mwelekezi wangu ananiambia mnataka kuendelea lakini tumalize. Bwana Lulu, naona unataka kuongea lakini utaniwia radhi kwa leo. Tumalize. Nafikiri hili swala tunafaa kuzungumzia sana. Nashukuru pia msemaji wa polisi amekuwa akifuatilia. Pia akipata muda tutatamani sana aje hapa tusaidie kuelewa masuala haya. Lakini asanteni wangwana kwa kufika katika studio na kuelezea masuala haya. Na imani kwamba siku moja ufisadi utapungua ama kuisha katika idara ya usalama wa polisi.
Nashukuru. Ile kwa warrant of arrest ile lazima niseme jambo. Licha ya kuwa kwamba polisi hawahitaji warrant of arrest, lakini kuna maswala ambayo polisi haruhusiwi kushika bila warrant of arrest. Na hata msemaji wa polisi nadhani analielewa, lakini sababu basi masaa yameisha. Next time ukipata nafasi umuite huyu msemaji wa polisi na tuite tukuja na yeye tuseme
sawa. Amesikia na anatazama. Asanteni sana. Na tukamilishia pale kwa sababu ya muda pia itifaki zote zimezingatiwa. Asante sana kufuatilia Gumzo Pevu na asante sana producer wangu bwana Geoffrey Onditi na wote ambao wamefanikisha makala haya ya Gumzo Pevu siku ya Jumanne ya leo kuhusiana na masuala ya idara ya usalama. Na sana tukiangazia ripoti ya jopo kazi ambalo lilikuwa limebuniwa na Rais Daktari William Ruto mwaka uliopita, na sasa ripoti iko wazi. Je, itatekelezwa? Ni swala la kusubiriwa. Mimi naitwa Dora Maya.
Guess what? It's your good friend and loyal partner, Claudio. He's the one who took it.
Olga mentioned to me that he was also involved in the murder of Carolina.
Olga?
I got nothing to do with those drugs!
Transporting it. So the charges will be against you.
Where are they? They shouldn't get away from us. You two check over there. You
Yes,
come
sir.
with me. Hurry up!
I've just recalled everything. Now I'm going to do what I should have done long before. I am going to tell the truth. But getting cold feet?
No. Certainly not.
Thank you for staying with us. This is Good Morning Kenya. And from the reforms in the security sector, the conversation that was being had right here a couple of minutes ago, we now get into another very important conversation, and that is food security, especially in the face of the heavy rains that we are now experiencing. And joining me yet again for this particular conversation is one Professor Richard Oduor, and he is the chairperson, Kenya University Biotechnology Consortium, and also the Registrar of Research at the Kenyatta University. Prof, welcome to Good Morning Kenya.
Thank you. Good morning.
You're doing okay?
Very well. Thank you.
Yeah, the rains are here with us now. Unfortunately, it is escalating into a humanitarian crisis. Like, why is this so? We knew the rains were going to come even before we get into. What do you feel about this, you know, as someone who is living in this country?
Well, it is sad that it's not really helping the country at the moment. It's now becoming a catastrophe, which is very unfortunate. But I also think it is a problem that runs between the either lack of preparedness or at the same time it could also be, you know, just a case of weaker legislation. Because, you know, this country needs to put its acts together, and particularly to take advantage of natural resources like water.
Yes.
It is sad that you would expect water to be used for irrigation and for, you know, normal household consumption and other things that water does. But unfortunately, instead it's now sweeping away our livestock, it's sweeping away our, you know, people. Property is, you know, in quotes, and I'm putting that in plural deliberately, you know, are also getting down and being broken. And this is sad. So for me, it is unfortunate, but I hope that a lot more preparedness should have been done early enough to ensure that we don't get into this kind of situation every time there is a similar catastrophe.
Yeah, because we don't seem to be conserving any of this water that is pouring, you know. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But these rains were expected to improve our food security. Is that the case? Is that what is happening?
It's not happening. Actually, right now it's flooding, and with the floods, unless you have the crops that are tolerant to flood, with you know, stronger stocks and adopted to that area, you know, there are also mangroves, there are papyrus, there are reeds that grow on water. So, but unfortunately, we don't eat them. So for that reason, then they are not helping us in this regard, in the discourse around food security. But regarding the use of water for other more important, you know, things like agriculture, then indeed we are wasting the water. We would have expected a little more preparedness, particularly in terms of you know, harvesting this water for other purposes. At the moment, it is just draining or washing down to the seas and to the rivers, and that's it. Of course, it's a lot more than ordinary. The meteorological department had hinted to us that we will have a lot more water, and the peak being November. Well, the start of it probably was a bit wishy-washy in terms of the exactness of that. But again, it was a forecast, it is a prediction, it is, you know, modeling. And therefore, we should allow a bit of error margins in terms of starting. But I think they were spot on when they talked about November being the peak of it, and we are seeing it happening. So that we should have done a little bit more. Sometimes very disappointing is that we are talking at a time when these particular sections, like the Tana River areas, the Budalangis, the Hero areas, these are known conventional areas that are known to be flooding. So it is either the people also in there do not have options of moving to higher grounds because that's where they were born and raised, and there are no alternatives for them. And now then it is about the government looking into how do we then protect these people in cases of such calamities, because we see this every time there is a calamity. So from where I sit, I feel we have not used the opportunity very well that the rains have, you know, has actually, you know, brought to us, and it is again unfortunate.
It can't be reversed from where we sit right now, now that they're already here with us. pouring heavily.
At this point, it is sad because unless you already had dams that were almost getting completed and now you just need to commission them and start accepting water, that would be the most ideal situation to do. But probably thinking that we are able to dig dams right now within the shortest time and probably let it ready to harvest this water, at the moment it's not. Probably we need then to start thinking about what are the other technologies, what are the other things that we can do. Do we therefore start thinking about science in terms of looking at the crops, strengthening them so that they survive floods, they survive salinity, they survive some of these things that come with such kind of calamities. And that's an area that can be explored as well.
Yeah, and I'm trying to look at maybe a small-scale farmer who is watching us right now, and maybe they're trying or they're wondering what crops maybe would survive this types of rain, this type of rain that we're experiencing right now. Are there particular crops that maybe, or it will depend with the soil of the farmer in the particular place that they're in?
That is a nice technical question, Vivian. And if you ask me, it's a lot more wider and a bigger spectrum than currently being discussed. Because if you start looking at what are the possible crops that would be very comfortable around floody environments, you should start thinking around things like the arrowroots, the ndumas. They like a bit wet environments, but also not wet for a long time. But also we are getting to know that these are surface runoff waters, which mean they can stay there for a day, 2-3 days, then they disappear. Unless if it is taking a whole month, it's all flooded, then that becomes very difficult, even for Nduma itself. But at the moment, we need to look at when such things happen, what are the other things that we can do? It's not necessarily sometimes around the crop per se, as such. You can take advantage of that situation that this is here, we have reeds working, we have papyrus working. Do we therefore take advantage of other crops? You can actually plant cash crops, not necessarily food crops. Then it gives you money that you can now use to buy the crops that were not able to grow within your environment. All this is happening within the same area. So the discussion can span around looking at not necessarily now crop that we eat, but probably even the cash crops. There are some sugarcane that can be strengthened against a lot of water, and using a lot of water also means that there must be a mechanism within the cell and the plant that is allowing it to release that water, so that that water is not diluting its system. Do you know, even in our body system, we are told that water is life. And it's very good to take a lot of water. But do you know, again, if you take a lot of water, you have a disease that is called, psychogenic polydipsia, which simply means that your blood system is getting too diluted, such that even the electrolytes are diluted. And remember, there is an electrical system, the firing system of the nerves. Then if it is overly diluted, then you are also not going to function very well. Remember, that is water that we are told is life. So all these things need to be done in moderation. At the moment, we have a crisis. So under such crisis, sometimes another mechanism is just to let the water flow. Because there was a lot of preparedness, we had already thought about this, it will happen. Now the thing is, we can now use our food reserves that were there earlier on to cushion us during this period that we can't manage the water. But eventually, we just need to profile this country very well, like we usually do, and then make sure that we start even warning the people early enough that, hey, we are seeing the rains are coming, we expect you to move. But also Kenyans, they're equally very stubborn. They will say, we will wait for that water until we start swimming from our houses, then it will be fine. So it's all confused in there, but I think we can do better.
Do you even do enough are there enough public participations whereby the farmers are brought together and told, we knew the El Nino rains were coming? Do you feel like there was enough sensitization even with the farmers and just the general public, really?
Well, I think sometimes I listen to many discussions and I get to feel that we really enjoy politics more than the other discussions that are very useful for us. Anything political, we pick it very fast as a country, and we are just wired that way, which is so good and also so bad at the same time. If you know that our appetite is higher for political discussions, then I think that is the discourse, that is the environment within which we also need to discuss sensitization, so that as we are talking about things that we so like politics, then somebody needs to throw in certain things that, hey, even as we discuss this, rains are coming and we need to warn, so that we advise within something that is known. Yeah. Clearly, it was clear that the rains would be here. We knew about it, many of us did, and you would imagine that people who are living within those areas should have heard this, and probably using our national system, including the assistant chiefs, the commissioners and all that, would have cited this, and they sort of did, because we heard that. Only that, how do you then only sensitize and you're not giving options? Yes. So that is where now the challenge starts coming. Because if you go in there and tell them, good people, there is going to be a lot more rain, but we have this, 5,000, apartment somewhere or excluded environment where we are going to host you for 2 months as we see this happening, then you will come back. Everybody will pack and go. But it is different when you tell it will come, but we have not given you the option. So it's about you thinking within your limited resources that you need to plan yourself. And sometimes they genuinely don't have options. Mm-hmm. So, and that is where we now call on Kenyans. These are our brothers and sisters, really. Yeah. And therefore, if you are called upon to help, we should also look out there and just support them.
Yeah, because even if you look at the situation right now, the people who have been displaced, I mean, they don't even have food. They lack food from where they are right now. So it means nothing much was really put in place to ensure that we're looking into, even as we move people to higher grounds, how are they going to be hosted, what are they going to be eating? But anyway, we won't get into that. What maybe policies do you think should be adopted in order to ensure that we are food secure as a country?
There are so many policies that can be dealt with. There is even the policy around even the land acquisition and fragmentation, all these things that are happening. Do you know what is funny, Vivian? Is that Kenya is big enough to accommodate all of us. We can actually comfortably move everybody who is in Tana River and move everybody who is in Ahero and package them in an area and supply them with all the social amenities, and we will just be fine. For us to be food secure, there are many, many other things that we need to look at as a country, particularly the land acquisition and utility, where we are talking about land fragmentation. Because the real, countries that have overcome this challenge of food insecurity really have put in place a lot more of policies, particularly even in settlement. You will find, and we've lived in those places, where settlements are enclosed within a particular area. You relieve the rest of the land so that you have large-scale farming. Now, unfortunately for us, and I come from the western side, from the Nyanza side, you find every other person is having their small little homes, and we even have cultures that where your father and grandfather had actually built their home, you can't go and build yours. So after a while, you move to another space. So you have left all the, and even our cemetery, our burial system, every home is spotted with with graves, because one or two, then as you move your grandmother somewhere. So it's all scattered in there. So even if people are right now moved to a settlement that is guided, and we say we are supplying water here, electricity here, security here, leave the rest of land for agriculture, there will be another ritual in terms of how do you deal with the bodies that are already scattered in these 20 acres that now were previously people's homes. So, and that will require a lot of things, including religion, including cultural, including many, many other things to get that to happen. There are already talks ongoing. And people who are deep in matters, land and fragmentation, will actually be at a better place to explain this. But the reality is that as a country we have seen that this is not right. And pieces of land that were previously for agriculture, look at Kiambu. Now, that was agricultural land, but we're now fragmenting it to become now very nice gated communities with the trees and tarmac, whatever, and we are moving into that. So, and Kiambu is the closest county to Nairobi, actually should be able to feed this city somehow, in some level, but instead, what are we doing to that land? We are actually converting it into, residential and apartments and nice homes, and it's becoming very expensive. And when you look at even how the development is happening around this city, within the metropolis, you realize even the Machakos side, the Kangundo side, the Ngong side, it's actually all sides, and it's expanding. So as that is happening, what are we doing to the land? So if we assume that the ones around Nairobi in the periphery are right now too exhausted, then we go outside the cities, then we now still have to deal with what do we do with homes. How do you come to me and tell me that we need you to leave your home and we need to concentrate you in a particular area so that we relieve this piece of land for, for agriculture. That is one, and that's the most extreme. The other most probable thing would be, even right now, there are still spaces spotted within those homes, separated, How do we then merge them or consolidate them through a legal process where you are saying we will have 10 acres or 20 acres or 50 acres of this land. We know it's owned by 10 or 20 people. We have brought you together in a circle-like thing, but this 10 acres, your percentage is a share that you are contributing towards this capital resource, and then we mount technologies in terms of how do we do irrigation, how do we do fertilizer application, how do we give you the good seeds so that food can be produced within that area. It's still very, very possible. But that is another thing. Then other things are now technologies.
Yeah. The new technologies that are being adopted. Now, assessing the situation as it is right now, when, just looking roughly, when will we get to a point where as a country we can say we are food secure? From where you're sitting right now, can you be able to maybe just give a timeline?
Well, timeline might be too hard for me, and because we all live in this country. For the country to be food secure, and let me tell you, all these things we are doing are very good. We can make development, we can do super highways of the digital economy, and they are all happening together. But the moment we have not addressed the food security issue in this country, all those things, because the road is very nice, just use expressway and I love it. But if you're hungry, the fun is not as fun. You must get food inside your stomach, and then you will be happier enjoying those optical nutrition, which are very good. But at the same time, how do we sort out the value, the food security issue in this country? We are able as a country. And the thinking would be, we need to start looking at food security from the soil preparation to the end of it in the store. And Vivian, my thinking is, look at how do we treat our soil? Yes, the rains are here. Not entire country is flooding. The places that are flooding are known. So what have we done to prepare the places that are flooding, that are just getting ordinary rain, that still the crops can manage? So the soil needs to be tested. And we need to get to know that soil, what is appropriate for it. You will see situations where, for instance, the Ukambani area is known to be a little droughty, it's drought. But you will find that somebody still wakes up and still plants maize there, because that is what we have been made to believe that is staple food. Why can't we let the maize to grow in the Kitale areas and the Rift Valley where it's doing so well? Then the Ukambani area, and that must be designed as a policy, that the Ukambani area is very good for njahe, is very good for this early maturing crops and whatever, and you bulk that a lot more, such that your njahe is available, because that carbohydrate that is coming from maize requires a protein. Then if Central is so good for the warus and all these things, we also say we need this to come from that other side. We all meet in the market, and therefore whoever wants the maize buys, whoever wants the whatever, and therefore you still will be food secure in this country. That is just the soil alone. Once you're done with the soil, then the next thing you need to look at is to figure out, what is this thing? So the soil is not tested, so you don't even know what kind of fertilizers are missing and nutrients. But the government has given you fertilizers to add on the soil whose content and nutritional value you don't know. So you don't even know you are adding more fertilizer to a soil that surely does not need that particular one. And you also must know, if it is too much, the fertilizers themselves, there is even a way of how to apply it. You apply it next to the plant, it burns it. So who is this extension officer who is training farmers on the best practices of how even the fertilizer needs to be done? And that is Kari, or the current now Kalro, used to have a lot of extension officers to talk to the farmers. Even telling the farmers, you go to my village now, you will find other maize is now being planted, others are halfway, somebody needs to synchronize on the basis of what meteorological has said, saying the good time for you people to plant should be between these 2 weeks. Plant within this time, because that will be in tandem with the rains and how we see it. And that's just a statement that needs to be cascaded down. There are basic things that we need to do. Then after that, the choice of what plant, which maize, which beans, which one is early maturing, which one is drought tolerant, which one is insect protected. And that's where we come in as molecular biologists and people who make genetic engineering and GMOs in this country, as scientists, and doing genome editing. That's where we come in, and we need to be tasked by the Kenyan and the public that you scientists, what have you done and what are you doing towards getting our seeds that are protected? But you know, nobody is, you know, we are chewing a lot more politics than even actually putting our scientists to task and asking them, as a scientist, you know, you do research using taxpayers' money. What is this seed? What is this thing that you are saying? So that we are available also to serve this country. But instead, scientists, we are left to do our things in the lab, and we do a lot of nice things, by the way, in those labs. And we are training, students are happy. We are happy because we do things that we love. But how is it translating into the needs of this country? It is a conversation that is ripe. Because put your scientists on the table, put politicians on the table, put your religious people on the table, and all these other, lock them in Safari Park, give them a week, feed them, and tell them you get out of that hall with a solution for this country. And for a moment, we stop this politics and just say we want to feed people. Because it's getting out of hand, and we are still politicking, and sometimes it's, you know, politicians know how to take advantage of it. Others would say, you know, it is favoring me. The prices are high, so you bash the government. The government is also blaming our... So all these things are happening, but if I was to be advised, or to advise the government, I'll say, please, all these people who claim that they have solutions, pick them. They are Kenyans like that. Lock them into a room somewhere in Ole Sereni. Give them a week, 2, or even a month. Feed them. Tell them all those brains and the knowledge that you have, we need solution here.
And they come.
It is possible.
It is possible
to sort out the problems.
No one is sleeping hungry simply because...
it is possible.
And looking at the situation, you know, the population is growing. There's no point we'll say that, you know, it's not growing. The population keeps growing after every census. So we really need to look at what these people will feed on, you know. So I really tend to agree with you on that. And you've spoken about science. You scientists, you feel like as scientists, you're not being given enough time. You're not being given enough, you know, of an ear. You know, people are not really listening to you and giving you the opportunity to find solutions. So maybe if you can just tell us what are some of the technological things that you have adopted, or when it comes to science, what are some of the new sciences, if I may put it that way, that are here that can help us get to a place where we are food secure as a nation?
As a country, even before we get to technologies, we need to deal with ourselves, particularly on the cultures and the beliefs that we have. And we need to know why we eat food. We don't eat ugali because it is white or it is brown or whatever. We eat them because we are looking for nutrients that are in there. And we need to be taught that way so that we change this imagination. When you are eating ugali and somebody else is eating chips, you both, or arwaru, you are both eating the same carbohydrates. And therefore, glucose from maize and glucose from waru and glucose from cassava is the same. The structure is the same, and that's what the cell requires. But the way we have been socialized, even in food, there are certain foods that are known, these are for this community, this is for the other one, and they are for this country. Do you know, Vivian, if there is no maize in the country, we declare this country that we don't have food. And that's wrong. Because maize is just a source of carbohydrates. Those glucose, we know them.
It is our staple.
You know, it is our staple. But there is cassava. And there is sorghum, there is millet, and they provide the same thing. How have we been socialized? And let me tell you, when I was growing up, we were, during famine, during hunger, is when we were being fed on sorghum. And therefore, we stigmatized it. Why? Because it was just coming during hunger situations. And therefore, even at this age, is when you're realizing that brown, when you go to these eating places in this country, like Koseres or whatever, you'll find that the brown ugali, all of a sudden, has become very expensive, more than the white one. And there are explanations. This one has roughage, this one whatever, all the, you know, more nutritional, and all, you know, all that discussion. It's right because others have more, have more roughages, which is good for your digestion. But when you look at sorghum, it is carbohydrate, and it is the same thing. So others, it's processed, so you have reduced a bit of nutrition, or probably you've picked away a bit of vitamins and all that discussion is nutritional discussion, and it is okay to have that discussion. So we need, first of all, to figure out how do we deal, one, with wastage, and there's a lot of it. And how do we deal with wastage? For instance, if we go to a restaurant right now, a fine dining, and we take dinner, at the end of it all, there is this culture that you shouldn't, first of all, finish your food on the plate. Because when you do that, when you are hosting me as a guest, do you know if culturally I shouldn't finish all the food on the table? Because I will be seen, I'm gluttonous. And if I also finish, you are also not a good host because you didn't cook enough. So both of us are struggling with a culture. So I'm leaving food, And therefore, and you must cook more than enough. So what have we done at that particular point? We have wasted that. And again, there is even stigmatization of leftovers. Look at the way we call them. That's leftover. And actually, you are eating leftover, it becomes stereotypes. Now, and yet the glucose is still the same. The nutrients, it's still the same. It didn't change because it's left and over. Now, after that, the next thing is we go to restaurants, we leave food on the table. And even if you, how do we get to a point that we need to even take the president to one of these very nice hotels? He eats, and after eating, and there's something left, he asks for a doggy bag. Pack it for me so that I take it home. It can be used the following day. That statement alone will change a lot of even the perception of that. But you know, we are even shy to carry that thing, and even the name we have given it's called doggy bag. So look at the way you can't even want to prepare it for the next day. Statistically, a third of the food that is produced globally goes to waste. It's something we call food loss and a third.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And it is because of the culture. So that is another discussion. But once we are done with that, how do we treat the food that we already have? How do we store it? You know, there's one thing to get your maize to harvesting stage. After harvesting it, what do you do with it? How do you store it? Because you will lose all that through aflatoxin if you don't store it very well. So you have struggled with it, it has actually gone through the agronomic things, and it's now on their store. Then you will lose it, and you can't eat it because it has higher levels of aflatoxin. So how have we dealt with that? Then once you're done with that, technologies. One, the best technology that was actually...
I'll ask you to hold that thought. We take a break and then we come back with the technologies. Let's take a break.
Guess what? It's your good friend and loyal partner, Claudio. He's the one who took it.
Olga mentioned to me that he was also involved in the murder of Carolina.
Olga?
I got nothing to do with those drugs!
Transporting it. So the charges will be against you.
Where are they? They shouldn't get away from us. You two check over there. You come with me. Hurry up!
I've just recalled everything. Now I'm going to do what I should have done long before. I am going to tell the truth. But getting cold feet?
No. Certainly not.
KBC Channel 1 magazine programs strive to disseminate news and information.
Welcome to Happening in the World of Entertainment
and achievements of individuals navigating through life.
Be part of the intelligent conversation. Hapa KBC Channel 1.
Related to the interest of Kenyan public on various subjects of national importance.
Basi karibu tujifunze.
Keeping you up to date with the latest tech news,
Challenges and remarkable stories of individuals with disabilities.
and you have a say.
Our magazine programs empower communities with words for conversations and a common language to approach the world.
For your infotainment needs, we have a great range of programs.
Pindi tunapowasha vifaa vyetu, tunapata fursa ya kutangamana na wasikilizaji wetu.
Karibu sana thĩinĩ wa tabarĩra ya Rwiga.
Tunapeperusha utangazaji uliobobea katika habari,
nĩ ũndũ wa macio na mangĩ maingĩ,
burudani,
haha nĩ harĩa tũkoragwo tũkĩigua nyĩmbo mwaki nyĩmbo hoda
na hamasisho la kiroho. Usiachwe nyuma. Jiunge nasi kwa safari ya kufana katika 99.5 FM. Soro FM.
Welcome back, and we continue with the conversation that is on food security as a country. Are we able to get to a point where we will say confidently that Kenya is food secure? And Prof is here to just help us dig into this, and he was actually just getting into the technologies that we should adopt, or that we are already adopting, to ensure that we get to that state where we are food secure as a nation. You were starting on technology number one before we went for the break.
Thank you, Vivian. And you know, there is a reason why we have to adopt technology. We must adopt technology because, one, on the 15th of November last year, the world population hit 8 billion.
Yes.
We never actually made noise about it, but it was a big thing. Then if you couple that with the fact that the climate is changing, this El Nino discussion and that drought and those drought episodes and the crazy diseases outbreak is climate change. It's happening. And now if you must be secure in terms of food, then who is farming for us? If you look at the, the statistics, you will realize that farmers are old. They are older and they are aging and they are facing off shortly. How do we get the youth to run away from it? Because the youth are into these white-collar jobs, and they are right now into content development, and they are into YouTube, TikTok, and all this. And there is no way you can weed through TikTok. You must take a hoe and actually weed and get the weed out. So that means we must figure out how do we interest the youth, because they are the bigger majority. I serve as a board member of Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, and I can tell you I have those statistics here. The number of youth and how we can project them to becoming, even in the future, we still will have this number of youth actually growing. And while it sometimes looks as if it is a bad thing that we have more youth and they're problematic, it is not. There are countries world over right now, look, Canada and all these developed countries, they are really looking for the youth because their population is actually older and facing off. So having a high number of youth is not a bad thing. It's advantageous because these are energetic, it's a source of labor, they are still very versatile, they can lose many things because they can try a lot of things. When you get to fourth floor like some of us, you now become very cautious, even the risks you can make. The youth have time, they have the ability to even try new things, fail, and they can recover. Now we need to interest them in agriculture. We need to make agriculture become trendy and swaggy. They need to come and say, and me, I'm a farmer, and they feel good about it, just like they say I'm a doctor or whatever. We need, because there is money, and the richest people actually also in the world are farmers. The real large-scale farmers, because people must eat every single time. So the market is already there for farmers. So how do we train our youth? That is how technology comes in. Where are the areas for the technology? Technologies would be in terms of the farm input, in terms of mechanization. We don't need to use those cows and whatever. We have tractors now that can do plowing very quickly. Then we need technologies that speak to the seeds, because it doesn't matter whether you've used the tractor or not. Once you have plowed and planted the seed, if the insect comes, it will eat the seed regardless of what machine you used, how modern it is, and even how irrigation happening. So we need to look at the seed. We need to look at the farm input during the time of the agronomic traits, the weeding. How are we using technology in that? How are we using technology in terms of harvesting? How are we using technology in terms of storage? And then how do we add value on the foods that we have stocked? And there are a number of them. One, there is, right now everybody is talking about AI. And the AI, artificial intelligence, is a very ripe area for this to happen. For instance, do you know when you are doing irrigation, what we are calling precision agriculture from where we sit? Right now, the easiest way is you go to where water is and then you allow it to flood your area, and then you probably time it for 30 minutes, 1 hour, and then you stop. That means you have actually flooded your farm without even getting to know what was the differential sections of the soil. Soil in a 10-acre land is not drying at the same time. There are other areas that still have sufficient moisture, others have dried. Why can't you figure out what area requires so that you save this water that is a limited resource? That is when the remote sensing and precision agriculture comes in. It's the automation. Now, when it comes to harvesting, we have the machines that can do the harvesting. When it comes to weeding, the technology that is right now available is what we are calling Roundup. Most people, when they hear Roundup, they think GMO. and they don't understand what is the technology of Roundup and how was it invented. For instance, if you have 1 million acre of maize farm for 1 million, it means we will be moving from here to Naivasha, for instance. And if you want people to weed manually, because weeding means you leave maize and you cut grass, so it is selective. How do you weed from here? How many people will you parade here from here to weed for you up to Naivasha? It won't happen. It is wasted by the time, but because they can do it after 1 year, the lifespan of even maize is not 1 year, it's 3 months. So by the time they get there, it will already be drying. So how do you come up with a technology that will help you with the weeding? So what has that happened? Now there's a technology of Roundup. What do? You put the glyphosate. So your maize, you put a gene in it that will make it survive herbicide, which is the biolophos or the Roundup. So what is done? Your maize, you put in the genome that, herbicide tolerant. So when you plant your maize, all of this your 1 million acre, you don't need to weed. What you do, you just pump, you take the herbicide, you put it on a plane, you just fly to Naivasha, back. As it's it's spreading the herbicide in all your maize together with the weeds. So the weeds will dry off because they didn't have the gene that makes them tolerant to the herbicide, and your maize stays. That is
so that maize is called GMO.
That maize is called GMO, and now it is bad. It causes cancer. Yet it has helped you, to deal with the problem of weeding. Then there is another one that I do, which is drought tolerance. And because at Kenyatta, sometimes when people hear GMO, they think it is coming from the US, they are coming to bring food into this country, and it's bad food, it will cause cancer, and it is wrong to believe that way. Because this country, since 2005 up to now, mathematics will reveal to you that is around 19 years. 2005, and 5 to now, around 18 or so years. 18 years at Kenyatta University, and that is the lab that I did my master's in. At Kenyatta University. It was commissioned by the late Professor George Saitoti in 2005. So for 18 years in this country, we have been making GMOs here at Kenyatta University. Then, in this country, you have 3 other labs. Another one is at Calro. There's another lab in Il Rebecca. There's another one in Isipe. Those labs are enough and are available. There are enough people who do good research. Then somebody will say, who is protecting us? Who is whatever? There is National Biosafety Authority. It was established through the Biosafety Act 2009 and was established in 2010. For the last 13 years, they are here along Roresho side. Their work is nothing else apart from controlling the work that is done in the lab, the work that is done in the field, and the work that is done for labeling and importation. It's already existing. So when somebody says legislation, and it was done by the government. So when a government allows such a thing to happen, it means the technology has been accepted, only regulated. Do you know, Vivian, and let's be fair to ourselves, from 1994 to now, those are 30 years. The first GMO was commercialized in 1994, 30 years ago. And right now in Kenya, we are still discussing a technology which is 30 years ago. Which is 30 years old. And it is so bad. We should be having all the Americans, the South Africans, the Chinese, and all who are eating GMO to have all the cancers. The thing is, and let me break the GMO so that people understand where do we come from. For instance, when you are eating your githeri, you are mixing the beans and maize in your mouth. You are not going in there to remove the DNA. So you are eating actually the maize with the DNA, and you are eating beans with the DNA, which you naturally eat. And it is not toxic. DNA cannot be toxic. So when do we come in? And why are we taking beans, by the way? It's because beans are classically known to be having proteins. And maize, we are getting carbohydrates. That is what the body wants. That is why sometimes if bean is not there, we go for beef, because we are still picking carbohydrate, proteins. And remember, proteins are made up of amino acids, and there are only 20. So amino acids, whether it's coming from, from a goat or coming from fish and whatever, that's why we only call them proteins, because the constituents are the same. Now, when there is a climate change like now, there is flooding, and now beans, for instance, cannot grow. But we still want the proteins, because we have not stopped eating them. How do I help? The best way should have been take maize and beans and cross them so you get beano maize, something like that. That can't happen naturally right now. That is when we come in as molecular biologists. What do? We go into the genome of beans through sequencing, and those tools are available and are the cheapest. You sequence all of it and realize through the sequencing we are able to get to know that this level, this section is responsible for proteins alone. You know, because the letters that form the DNA, by the way, for our viewers, are only 4. They are just A, T, G, and C. Anything that is alive that you see, be it a plant, a mosquito, whatever, in the genome, in the DNA, they're only having those 4 letters. So the difference between you and a mosquito, if it is the same and we are not looking the same, is because those A, T, G, C, how they follow each other, that's what we are calling sequence, and what number. So if you only have a set of 20, that is a mosquito, and I'm using this just as an example. And for the human being, you will have those letters 3.2 billion. They have been counted. We have sequenced. We know which section is responsible for your skin color, which one is responsible for your hair. It is known because human genome has been sequenced. This is data that is available. So a molecular biologist, when I come in to sort your problem of proteins, what do? I go to the genome of beans. I pick the section that is the letters that are the same like the ones that are in maize. Then I move that section alone. That is what I insert in the genome of maize. Do you know at that particular point, because naturally you can't cross maize and beans, I have created maize that has got the DNA from the beans. That maize right now is called GMO. And it is very bad. Apparently it causes cancer. Yet naturally you have been eating this DNA naturally with the beans. Do you get where that thing is? And when you break it down to that level, you are eating beans, beef, and all these things. You are eating them, all of them, with the DNA. So what we are only doing, we don't want the shortness of the bean to go to maize. So leave the roots of beans alone, because there is a section that deals with that. That is why we call it precision agriculture, because now we are picking what we need, move it into the maize, then we target it into the kernels, because we don't want the proteins from beans to be on the leaves, because we are not eating the leaves. And we don't want it to hide on the roots, because we are not eating the roots. So that thing is now GMO, and it is bad. Let me tell you, my own conviction is that as Africans, we need to start thinking seriously about technologies, and we must learn from the past. For instance, and I want to tell you this, and let it be in the air, when the rest of the world was using coal, C-O-A-L, to industrialize themselves, to generate electricity, you know, we were still here. But we were still wondering, how is this thing creating light? These guys are competing with the star. And there must have been a very serious discussion around that. But 30 years, 40 years, 50 years later, there is a caveat. Right now, coal is caveated as dirty energy. Then now we can't use, we have a lot of coal here in this country in Kitui, but we can't use. So who is compensating this country for the coal that is sitting here in Kitui that was never used, but the rest of the world used it to confuse the environment, and now we are suffering because of that. So we over-debated, we never benefited, that technology passed us. Thereafter, there's one called the Green Revolution that started by some gentleman called Norman Borlaug. It again started 1940s to 1960s, 65. It helped Asia, it helped India, it helped Mexico and the rest of the world. It was about mechanization, fertilization, and all this irrigation thing, and tractors and all that. That time we were still debating. Now is when we have tractors in our villages now working. But you know, again, there's now another caveat. It's called carbon credit. It is now existing. Right now, when you want to sell your produce to the EU, you will quantify that. How much of carbon credit has this actually produced before? That's again locked. GMO started in 1994, 30 years ago. And because I do molecular biology, we right now have a newer technology we are calling genome editing. So I can tell you in another 5 to 10 years, and we will be here, and please call me back. I will come and we will tell you that the current GMOs are not good for the environment. We will say it is not biodiversity. We need genome editing. And what the genome editing does, because we're already doing it here in Kenyatta University, we are not now picking DNA from other sources. Now we are picking DNA from the same. If it is maize, we are just editing the maize itself. So soon, that is the next technology. We will have again lost the GMO series. That is how we are dealing with the technology. So what is my advice? Anytime there is a new technology, please let's coalesce around it and get to know quickly how do we benefit on time. And my last submission on this one, Vivian, is that, yes, we wind up. Look at mobile mobile phones when they first came. And I suspect you are a little, available in this country. Do you know there was a narrative that these things cause cancer? We were buying anti-radiation something, we were buying whatever. Had it not been for Safaricom that was already here, I can tell you, we wouldn't have picked the mobile telephony the way we did. Because at least Safaricom was here. No, you guys, you can't say it's causing. Why is it not causing the other side? This is our business. We must make sure. And it was done. Safaricom did it so well that even right now, you will find me with Safaricom and Airtel, but even if the prices are still not even the same, even Airtel is cheaper, you will still see me stuck with Safaricom, yet it is probably more expensive than the other one, and that I'm saying on a light note. I'm not paid by Safaricom or Airtel
Please,
to talk about them.
Not paid for marketing.
It is not for that. But I'm just saying, I'm giving an example of how good marketing and taking advantage of a technology at the right time is very, very good. So let's deal with, we are cautious as human beings, but let's manage our caution.
How do we manage these concerns as we finish? How do we manage the concerns that we still have of GMOs, that we are failing to adopt it with with open hands? Very quickly as we finish.
Yeah, we need first of all as scientists to get out of the labs and start breaking it the way I'm doing it now, and many more of us to do that. So that is why I chair the Kenya University Biotechnology Consortium. It is in a consortium that brings together scientists who are deep in biotechnology to talk about how do we use this technology safely. There are other organizations, we have ISA, we have other organizations that are also very deep in communication, and they are doing a good job as well. So we need more of sensitization. We need to talk to the farmers, because if you can bring a very good technology and if the farmers have not bought it, it's again going nowhere. And number 3, we need our politicians to stick to politics and leave matters science alone. Let them make the stringent laws that govern scientists, and we will be willing to abide by them. But if we use those laws that they have created to manage us and give them a product, let them consult scientists and say, I would have expected politicians that time, when this discussion around GMO came, politicians actually say, I want top scientists in this country who are doing genetic engineering, summon us to parliament, let's sit and let them interrogate one piece after another. What do you know about this? What is the advantage here? We are taking you responsible, and be allowed to sign something, and I will stick my neck and say, I am signing against the science I believe in. At the moment, we are not doing that. We are allowing all the people. Imagine up to the point where we are told that you eat GMO, you get boobs, you get breasts. Surely, if it is true GMO does that, Vivian, I can bet, you cannot afford it. It will not even be available on the food shelves. We will sell it as a drug in pharmacy. And it will be so, we won't actually take it to a drug that can actually make the kind of investment that the medical field is dealing with to make sure that we are looking good as people. We cannot just trivialize that, and that is very unfortunate. So let politicians allow the scientists to guide on newer technologies. That's not their area. Just the very way we will not go to talk about politics. We have no clue what they do. But as a country, we need to figure out how do we bring those two facets together and allow us to adopt new technologies.
All right. Thank you so much, Prof, for joining us. And thank you for always being ready to shed light on this particular matter that is GMO. I hope we can get more time maybe later on to get into the new one that you've just mentioned. And we'll find time to get into that. Now, this is where we call it a wrap right here on Good Morning Kenya. I have been your host, Vivian Degwa, and on behalf of the entire team, from Victor Olo, Mike Megwe, Regina Manyara, and the entire crew, we want to wish you a lovely day. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing.